welcome to the Past Play podcast. This is a reflection on every video game ever. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Ben.
And this is our first episode after launch.
Yeah, this is episode 4.
Episode 4 overall. Mm-hmm. We put all 3 out at once. So, yeah, this one's out 2 weeks later. This is the first of our actual chain of episodes.
If you've stuck with us this long, congrats.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
So today we're talking about Firewatch.
Mm-hmm. Little cute indie game, pretty basic, nothing complex about it, just a fun little story romp, really.
Yeah, it's completely focused on story. That's probably the key thing to know about this game, is that there's not much there's not much action, there's not much gameplay to a point, like there's not, don't do very much.
It's a walking simulator.
Yeah, it's a walking simulator, but it's completely built on the dialogue between, well, ostensibly there's only 2 characters in the game. There are other characters, but really there's 2.
It's I guess, I'd call it a character study, kind of, but it's more the characters interacting with this mystery, I suppose, which we'll get into later in spoiler territory. But yeah, it's you're a bloke that's trying to escape his current life, get some relief. You go and situate yourself at this Firewatch station. So you're in a national park, and all you're doing is just watching out for fires.
Yeah. Well, that's not all you're doing, but that's the idea.
Yeah, the premise is, you are there to watch out for fires, but in doing so, all these, other little things happen, which escalates the plot.
Yeah. So you're basically just, the entire game is built on you walking from place to place, and then you're talking to your supervisor, who's called Delilah, on your walkie-talkie, and really, most of the game, the thought that went into the game is the interactions between Henry, it was you, and Delilah, and sort of the interplay, the different... You get conversation choices that don't really change the game, but they change the way you perceive the characters.
It's kind of similar to a Telltale game in that they give you all these choices as to how you want to represent Henry. Henry's kind of you to a degree, based on how you do it. He has his own, character stuff, but you define the further points of that.
Yeah,
right?
They give you a backstory, and then you are basically role-playing Henry throughout, is based on that backstory and how you want to play the way he interacts with Delilah, and I guess the choices he sort of makes about his life that won't really come up in the game, but it's sort of, at the end, you can imagine, based on how you played him, what's going to happen next and how everything sort of has developed.
You play him as friendly, you play him as an asshole.
You can play him as a mute, basically. He doesn't have to say much.
I think you can play the whole game without saying...
you can just ignore most of the conversations. I think there are a few that you have to say something, like you automatically speak, but she can call you on the radio and you can just ignore her and she'll keep talking.
What a dick.
Yeah. So, so I have now played this game 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
I played it once when it came out. Not when it came out. According to my in-game save file, I first played it in mid to late 2017.
I'd have to check when I did,
Yeah, I think you told me about this game.
I think I did it, nearly on... Because it was on PS4 first, and I played it on Xbox. I would have played it around Xbox launch, I'd say.
Yeah, so that was September/October 2016.
Yeah, I would have... Yeah, around...
So I didn't play it until mid to late 2017, I think. Well... I don't know if they're using American date system or not, so it could have been February, but it was 2. There was a 2, but then there was also a 10. So it was I either played it in the 10th of February or the 2nd of October. One of the 2.
Okay.
But yes, so I've played it now 3 times because I played it once then, I played it again for this, and then I decided I probably should play it again with the audio commentary because on the Xbox release, they released for all versions, they released a developer commentary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just telling you this before we started recording, but when I played it the second time for this, I figured, I need to refresh myself on the story, so I don't want to have developer commentary just talking over me the entire time. So I played it through normally. Of course, a quick Google would have told me that the commentary is dealt with via like booths. So there's like little standing booths around the area, and you can basically walk up to them and put like a little cassette player into your headphones
at your
at whenever you want, and you can. So if you wanted to not ruin any of the story, or like not like talk over any of the story, you can just walk to that spot, pick it up, listen to it fully without moving, so you don't trigger any dialogue, and then move on. Now, if you're playing it the first time, I wouldn't recommend doing that because they do spoil the story before you get there.
Oh, do they?
Well, not fully, but they assume you've played it once, so they reference things that are going to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes just because like they have set locations for these booths and they reuse them on if you come back the same way on a different day, they reuse them. So it's not just go for broke. They're just everywhere.
Okay.
They're locked to each day, so it sort of follows a bit of a progression. You don't just wander around randomly picking up these things. Yeah,
you wouldn't walk up far north and get a commentary for the final day or something.
So you'll go to a station and it'll say this station's not available this day, but on your map there's also a list of all the ones that are available. On the map it shows you the ones that are available, and it also crosses them off for you, and there's a little legend on the right that crosses off the bubbles as you go through each day. Good. Yeah. So you know how many there's going to be each day and where they are as you get through the days. Mm-hmm. So some of them are like, just based on the placement, because the placements are reused, you might get something that's about to happen spoiled for you. Yeah. Just even by the title of the tape or by what they're talking about.
I mean, again, if you're trying to play this game, any logical person wouldn't play it with the commentary the first time anyway.
No, you wouldn't think so.
You can knock over this game in 3 hours easily.
I mean, well, listening to all the commentary, and there are over 100 tapes that you have to listen to. Because I was speed running it to get through it again because I just played it. It probably took me just over 3 hours, but that's because I had to stand still and wait for the tapes to finish. Yeah. If you just leg it, you could probably do it in like 2.5 hours or something.
I checked because on Xbox it'll tell you how long you've played the game for. Yeah. I checked it the other day, 4 hours, 16 minutes. So I presume that's factoring in pauses and stuff as well.
I think when I played it just recently, the second time without commentary and just was playing it normally, it probably took me 4.5. Just because I sort of wandered at my own leisure and, had a bit of a look around. So it depends how keen you are. I mean, I would expect, well, we'll get into it in a minute, but there's a lot of contextual stuff and there's a lot of stuff that you can skip if you don't want to do it. Yeah. There's stuff you can just walk basically wherever you want most of the time, and so if you can just skip whole chunks of the story if you want to. But I mean, assuming, as this is a walking simulator, I'm assuming if you're playing this game, you want this to get the story. So 3 hours is a reasonable
You're not playing this game for, fun.
Unless you're speed running it.
Yeah, you play this game for the experience of it. You're not going to go into it and be like, oh man, I really feel like some Firewatch today. Yeah. You go into this because you want to feel, you want to learn the story. You want to do this and that. Yeah. And that's why I think it kind of suffers from repeat playthroughs, I would argue.
Ooh, that's tough to say, because having played it with the commentary the second time, I did make a point to just choose different stuff, different dialogue and different things, and both through learning a few different little quirks through the commentary and through doing different, like saying different things or making different choices, you don't really get more story, I guess, but you get an appreciation for the technical aspects of the game. I think the design, like, it's really well designed. Like, this game took 2 years to make, which I'll talk about in the history. Like, it took longer once from concept to making, but from beginning of production, it took about 2 years to make. And you think, well, it's only 3 hours. There's one world, and you just backtrack around it, sort of thing, most of the time. Why does it take so long? Well, it takes so long because of the contextual elements. Like, there is a really complicated system basing around these conversations. So, at all times, the game is tracking what Delilah knows of what you've said, like what you've told her, what she's found out from things. It's tracking how long has it been since she last talked to her. And there's like triggers throughout the world. If you walk through, it'll check how long has it been since you said something. And then if it's been too long, she'll talk to you again, or you'll say some sort of dialogue. There'll be things where it's like, well, you need to know this, but we're not going to force you to know it at this certain point. But if you don't know it by this point, then we'll throw it in. Yeah. So Yeah, playing it a second time, you get an appreciation for the design, the work that went into the game.
It's a clean game. Like, it's, very tightly knit. There's not a lot of room for error in this. Like, in that, it's just, I wouldn't call it a perfect game, but it's just a very nicely done game. Just simple story, choices are all good, everything's all compact, and it all works fine. There's no, real things you'd worry about afterwards, like, oh, that was an issue, that doesn't make sense, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Everything's there for a reason, and it all works.
Yeah, well, that's sort of as I was saying with the design, it's like, a lot of these, you don't appreciate the way that it's all put together, so everything, as far as I can tell, there are no real continuity errors in terms of what dialogue is said to you, because the game is perfectly tracking everything that's been said and everything that hasn't been said. So you will get different pieces of information depending on which way you play it and what you say, and it never sort of railroads you and just takes you back to this sort of arbitrary conversation that doesn't make sense within the world just because, we need to advance the story.
Yeah.
Like, obviously there's story points that you must hit, but it's nothing where suddenly goes, there's some jarring thing where, why is she saying this, or why does she feel like this?
It's like, wait, why is this happening?
Yeah, this is not really to do with what I had to say, because it all sort of fits together. And you compare it to The Walking Dead, or not The Walking Dead, you compare it to Telltale generally, but it's manages to, I think, mitigate some of the downfalls of the Telltale system while also not being as ambitious, I guess. So what happens in Telltale is you'll get to choose between two characters who die or something like that. And one of them will die, but then an episode and a half later, he'll loop back around and you'll end up back in the same place because they need to close off all these branches.
Can't have loose ends.
So because it would take so much design work to make all these branches open. Yeah. This one doesn't try to give you those huge changes that last for, an hour or whatever.
There's no choices. There's dialogue choices, but there's nothing that, like, plot-wise, you can do to affect
Yeah, that's what I mean. The game itself is the exact same. It's sort of all... There is no branching and then closing back in. It just all follows one path. It's just you can sort of choose what you've said along the way. Yeah. Sort of... It's all... It's all within the role playing of the character that the sort of choices come into.
And that's why I think I would say it's better than Telltale. For the simple fact that Telltale games are messy. Don't get me wrong, love Telltale games, they're fantastic, but they're messy, and they do always suffer from this issue that the bigger it gets, the worse it's going to be, really, because the Telltale game's whole thing is, your choices matter. Choices are important. But they're not important, and they don't matter, because, like you said, if you kill off a character in episode 1, you know that whatever choice you made will be rectified by the end.
Yeah, if you choose to kill someone to save someone else, you can guarantee that person you save will be dead within an episode or two.
Because it becomes too difficult to have, now you've got two separate things, but if you want to build off one of the other ones, then, you're looking at 3 or 4, and it goes on and on and on. Whereas, it's just clean. It's clean, and it's funny. This game is funny too.
Yeah, there's a lot of snarky, sarcastic sort of banter between
it's nice
between the characters, and I think the game's built around a mystery, and it's got a lot of criticism for the way that mystery is resolved.
We'll get to the end. I have some comments on that.
We'll get to it at the end, but what I'll say now is that the first time I played it, there was a lot of people that just hated this and gave it 0, because the payoff was so bad. I mean, there was also a lot of people these sort of gamers that, people that aren't into this type of game that just played it and were like, man, this isn't Call of Duty. What's going on? There's no action.
I didn't shoot a gun.
One of my favorite, I've got a quote, I think, from the reviews. One of my favorites was for someone that gave it 10. There was a whole bunch of zeros around it, and there was a 10. And the first line is, "As an adult, I really enjoyed this game." That's sort of you have to have some sort of, you're not gonna, you can't just play this for cheap thrills. Like, it's sort of a story that you have to get invested in. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't like in the camp of like, oh my god, 0 for this game because the story, like it was a bit of an anticlimax.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm of the mindset that this, like a lot of other games, is, you know, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Yes.
That's my whole, you know, underlying idea about this game.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I wasn't in that 0 camp, but I was disappointed by the ending the first time I played it. Having played it again 2 years later, I'm less disappointed. Maybe that's just because I knew what was coming to a point, but but knowing what was coming, it let me sort of appreciate the story that was up to that point. And I mean, it's not trying to be a sensationalist video game style ending. It's replicating real life. Like, there's a few...
Yeah, absolutely.
It's trying to tell a real story about real people, not, you know...
This isn't like, you know, the knight gets the princess, everything's all hunky-dory. You know, it's grounded in real life. It makes sense. It's a logical story of what would happen. There's no grand event or anything. There's nothing spectacular. It's just a nice, personal story.
Yeah, so I mean, I won't go any... I'll talk more about... We'll talk more about the ending when we get to the ending.
It's a lot.
But, yeah, there's a lot to be said there, I think, about the sort of overall story structure of the game. Have you got any more... Before we head into history and development...
I think, for initial thoughts, it's... You know, it's a really beautiful game. And I've said this about... bloody every other game, well, except Halo. Halo's ugly.
Halo original graphics.
I've said but, you know, Shadow of the Colossus, Outer Wilds, they're both just beautiful games, and Firewatch is the same thing. And I think if you've looked at the history like I have, that the art style will play a big role in it.
I know about it. I don't think I've got much on it. You might have to help me on that bit.
I'll try. But yeah, I think the art is... You know, the stylized view of everything is what makes this game part of the experience.
It looks quite telltale-y in terms of it's
cartoony.
It's sort of drawn, like comic book style. And I mean, there are a lot of people from Telltale on this game that worked on this game, including the 2 people that started it.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very Telltale heavy inspired game, I guess, in the way that the story is built. But yeah, that's sort of very hand drawn sort of like I said, comic booky type art style.
It's I don't know if I'd call it comic booky so much as like there's I've used the word vistas in every damn review, but there's so many moments where you can just stop the game and just look around and everything. Yeah. It's fantastic.
And the game nicely gives you a camera for that too.
It does. That's about the only use of the camera.
That's the only. Yeah, the camera is something sort of just arbitrarily in there.
I don't think does it factor in at all?
No, the way they explain it in the audio commentary is it's sort of like basically what you're saying, like. Yeah, the world looks really nice, so let's let them take photos of it. And then it does play into the end credits, which we'll get into at the end.
Okay.
Sort of.
I might have forgotten this.
Yeah, so we'll get into that in the spoilers, but yeah. So no more... That would probably do for the initial thoughts. Oh, actually, I had one more thing that I was going to say now that I've wrapped up. And I've forgotten what it is.
Fantastic.
So what I would say is that... We sort of did touch on it, but that is that this game is not a game for everyone.
No, absolutely
not.
Yeah.
But for the people that are into this type of game, this is like one of the best examples of what it can be.
Not to make the worst pun ever, but it's a slow burn game.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. I mean, again, 3-4 hours, but... It's just easy to play. It's not, there's nothing difficult. Give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, you've lost 3 hours of your time.
It's like $20.
Yeah, I think it's only $20 or something. Yeah. That was the thing I saw a lot of reviews about. Like, they were complaining that it was like, man, $20, too much for this game. I was like,
pay $100 for Call of Duty.
Yeah, for the amount of story that's in there, it's like $20 pretty good. Yeah. Like, and I mean, not everyone has infinite hours to just play.
I'm typically of the mindset that like $1 an hour or $1 per half hour like justifies my purchase. If I pay, $100 for a game, get up 50 or 100 hours out of it, I'm fine. I'm never going to get 20 hours out of this game.
No, I mean, I've almost played it.
Yeah.
I've probably played it 15 at this point, playing it three times.
But I don't think I need to with this.
No, But this is one that the depth of the quality is over quantity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so we'll head off quickly into a break, and we'll come back and we'll talk history of the game development. I don't have a huge amount. This is a brief. I'm going to disclaimer right now. These are going to be brief histories of every game.
All right.
It's not going to be crazy in depth, like searching up everything. I do have a fair bit actually for this one compared to last time. I had nothing.
It was a bit.
Yeah. We're going to come back for that. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Fast Play Gaming podcast. We wanted to take this time to quickly give you some information about where you can find us and our Patreon page. Ben, you've got the info on that.
So on our Patreon page, we have 2 different tiers right now. We've got our $1 tier and our $5 tier. $1 backers will get to vote to determine what games we cover. $5 backers will get to determine the shortlist for this vote and also see every episode of the Fast Play Gaming podcast 1 week before everyone else.
Yeah, and that's at patreon.com/passplaygaming.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is that if you're the very first $5 backer, you basically can just tell us what game to review straight up.
That's a really good point. Yeah. So you have all the power. Give us $5.
If you're the only one there for $5, you can just do whatever you want.
You want us to review Fortnite? That's what we're doing.
We'll try.
Give us $5.
Okay. So also, we have a YouTube. The YouTube link is a very random complication string of characters, but it will be in the description of this and every other episode. I'm trying to do some stuff semi-regularly over there. So at time of recording, there's nothing up there apart from the trailer. All the podcast episodes will get fed onto there. And so I'm sort of semi-regularly looking to post some stuff up there. So if you want some different sort of maybe newer content on some of the new games that come out and maybe some extra analysis from the podcast, just check that out over there. And you can follow us everywhere in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at PassPlayGaming or /PassPlayGaming, whatever they have. And with that, we'll let you get back to the episode. So we'll see you then.
See ya.
The wind's really picking up.
Yeah, it is. Hey, so what the hell happened last...
Do you have anything you need to report?
No. No new smoke on my end.
Can you confirm?
Yes.
Are you concerned about the Greenwood fire?
I wasn't. Should I be?
Well, the wind is really picking up.
It's 2.5 miles off. And it's gonna have to break at the canyon, right?
All right. Well, use your best judgment.
Should I be worried? Delilah, should I be worried?
No, Henry.
So, last night...
You know we shouldn't talk about it. Please, stop.
I don't give a...
Please.
Fine. I don't think we're safe. This job is not safe.
Don't be dramatic.
Do people die out here?
People die getting out of the shower.
You know what I mean. As a lookout.
Look, why are we even here?
To make sure the damn wilderness doesn't burn down.
No. Our job is to be here when that happens. Henry, there are some things you can't prevent. So just stay in your tower, okay? Stay in there and watch.
We are back on the Past Play podcast. We are talking Firewatch today, and we are up to the sort of history of development section.
Mm-hmm.
So, Firewatch is a adventure style game from studio Campo Santo, an indie studio.
Mm-hmm.
It is their only game
Is it?
that they've made. It's
I
their
thought
first and
they'd
only.
made
They have
two.
another
Or they're
game
making
in
another.
production,
Okay.
but as we'll get into, they got bought by Valve, and that's sort
I
of
saw
on
that.
hold.
Mm.
So this is the only game by them. They basically were formed by Sean Vanneman and Jake Rodkin, who both were they were creative director and head writer, actually in the opposite order.
Okay.
Swapped perfectly.
All right,
Vanneman was
sure.
head writer and Rodkin was creative director on The Walking Dead Season 1. Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1. And from what I saw, they basically thought that the next path for Telltale was just going to be The Walking Dead Season 2, and they wanted to try something different.
Mm-hmm.
So they split off, they formed Campo Santo Studios, and yeah, they went from there. So they the game was co-published by, they published it themselves, and by Panic Incorporated, which was, I forgot the two names of the two dudes that had founded it, but they like made software for Macs and things,
Okay.
and they published a few mobile games. This was their first full game, I guess, that they
Actual
published.
game.
That they actually published. And they had employed Jake Rodkin a long time before he even went to Telltale. So that's sort of how they got the connection. He sort of called them up and said, "Oh, we want to make a game. Can you fund us?" So that's how that happened. Other notable people, Chris Remo he was like the, I don't know exactly what his credit was. He was credited as, I think, game designer and composer. So he was sort of in charge of audio, but also some of the game design sort of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And Vanneman wrote most of it, and Rodkin, I think, was like the head sort of game director or whatever sort of area type thing. The Ollie Moss worked as, he was the sort of art director of it. He was the one that did this sort of painting concept art thing that was of the tower, that was like the basis for the whole thing.
Talk about.
So if you want to talk more about that,
my knowledge of this comes from Wikipedia. So
I think that's
I read one paragraph on Wikipedia. Yeah, basically how he painted this image which served as the basis and the inspiration for the game, and from that they had someone translate. I suppose translate's the right word. It into like a 3D world sense, trying to keep his vision intact.
Yes, so
and that's
how Wikipedia says it sounds like he was just an artist that made a painting, and they were like, "We'll make a game out of that." Thanks, but based on the audio commentary, he was actually like, he's like a game person.
Okay,
so he actually was sort of like, he was art director, and I believe the person you're talking about is Jane Ang. It's just NG is her last name.
Yes.
I think in the audio commentary she called herself Ang.
Okay, I'm not even going to touch on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say her name is. So she did sort of a lot of the art sort of modeling of everything. So she hand created all the trees. There's 4,800 trees. She made the 23 different types of tree.
Okay, I was going to say.
And she didn't make all 4,800 on her own.
Right.
She made 23 different types of tree, and she made like the, half a dozen types of rock that there are, and you just rotate them or make them bigger and stuff to sort of keep the world fresh. So she was the other head. There was a lot of other people on the commentary, but like they were all sort of, I'm not going to credit everyone. They're animators and things.
I read on the Wikipedia article that Campo Santo only has 12 employees or something?
Yeah, there was only about a dozen of them. But there was like, so there was there was a guy that was sort of like the coding of like things like the skybox and things, and he was sort of a graphic designer type deal. There was a guy called Nels Anderson. I don't know what his exact role was, but he like did a lot of the research into like what actual living in a fire tower was like, all that sort of stuff. So he had a lot of he had like a story about some article that was in, I think, GQ or something, that was like about an actual dude that lived out in the forest for 30 years and stuff.
Boring.
Well, that was actually one of the things he said, is that when talking to all these people, they were like, "Man, this job's really boring. Why would you want to make a game about this?" Of course, obviously, the game is not as boring as it would actually be.
No,
because basically, you just have to sit there and stare at a fire.
If the game was you staring out a window for 3 months.
Yeah, luckily there's a few time skips in there to give you a chance. So those are the main people that are involved in it, and as I said, Vanneman and Rodkin moved on from Telltale, and they started up the studio, and they sort of were a bit lost to begin with, but they got onto their feet with the sort of production side and building a game from the ground up, because obviously they'd been like directors of, one of them was creative director on Walking Dead, but he
good
you know,
on
they
them.
hadn't really done it all on their own.
Hmm.
So, yeah, they brought in these few sort of people that they had, and they got to work. So
It worked.
Yeah, it worked so far. So far, it
Well,
worked.
It worked.
It worked.
Firewatch
Full
worked.
stop, it worked. So the game is set in a real national forest, the Shoshone National Forest in Wyoming, which apparently I think is near Yellowstone based on game context. And I don't know where Yellowstone
American
is.
geography.
We're not American.
Yeah.
You probably know that.
Well,
You would have worked that out. But yeah, I don't know where that is. And where Henry is from, which is Boulder, Colorado, is also a real place.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's all fine. What else have I got here?
They mentioned Melbourne, Australia. You know, that's a real
Yes.
place too. Mm.
Yeah, that is a real place, and we know where that is. So actually, a quick sort of trivia note is apparently... Now, as I said, there are actually 6 credited voice actors for this game, but
6?
most of them only have 1 or 2 lines, and then there's the 2 main characters, Henry and Delilah. So,
Yeah.
Henry's wife, Julia,
Mm-hmm.
she is quote-unquote in the game. She has like maybe 10 lines, but apparently she was originally supposed to be from Chicago, and then they changed where she was from because of the voice actor that they cast.
Oh, okay.
So crap, I forgot her name. I didn't write it down. But she is Australian, obviously, and she hasn't actually had that much stuff. She's on. She's a voice actor on there. It is Larissa Gallagher.
Mm-hmm.
She is a voice actor on OKKO. That's the only thing I've heard of apart from that.
Is that an anime?
It's not an anime. I think it's a cartoon, not an anime. But
Good.
and she's done a few additional voices for some other games, but not like anyone really credited. But yeah, apparently they liked her performance so much that they decided that Julia should be from Australia, and in fact, they decided it was better that she was story-wise, I guess, because it is better to have her be further away.
Oh, yeah.
In the way that the context of the story is. I mean, this is like super early in the game, so it's not really. I wouldn't say it's a spoiler. Like this is literally the first thing you find out is that she is. She's separated.
Yeah.
She's separated.
She suffers from Alzheimer's, and her
Yes.
family's taken her back home because.
So yeah, the fact that she's further away actually plays more. Is more affecting on the story.
Yeah,
it's
if
a
it was
further
like,
distance for Henry to
she's
go.
a couple of states over in Chicago. Yeah, just drive.
That's
dude.
not as bad. Yeah. So that's my main points on the history, which is not much there, as I said. But I've got a little bit of controversy.
Controversy?
So I don't know if you've heard of this person. He's a YouTuber. His name goes by the name of PewDiePie.
Vaguely.
Yeah, I don't know if I've never heard of him, to be honest, but apparently he has 103 million subscribers.
That's a couple.
That's a lot.
That's
yeah.
a couple.
So I don't want to offend any of those 103 million subscribers, but I don't like PewDiePie. I don't think he's very good. I mean, I've never seen any of his videos, to be fair.
I've seen a couple. I don't hate the guy.
I mean, looking at his recent videos, I mean, I don't know why I haven't watched Lost My Hair when hearing new meme music. Sounds like a good title for a video. Or maybe Why I Hate Ice Age Baby. These are the videos that come out.
Have you not seen that meme?
No.
Oh, it's a new meme.
It's a new meme.
Everyone hates Ice Age Baby now, and Stuart Little.
So he's just a sheep, basically.
Oh, I don't know.
Look. I don't want to offend anyone, but I don't like him.
Okay. Is that the controversy?
That's not the... yeah, I'm just attacking PewDiePie here.
Look, we were talking about Firewatch, but I hate PewDiePie.
So, in February 2017, he was partnered up with a Disney subsidiary called Maker or something, and he had a video in which there was a sign that said "Death to all Jews" on it.
Oh God! So I remember that.
So they pulled their thing from him. Now later that year, he said the N-word on a PUBG stream.
I saw that as well. Mm-hmm.
And as a response, Campo Santo filed the DMCA, which is the if you don't know about the DMCA, that is a Digital Millennium Copyright Act takedown on YouTube of all his Firewatch videos.
Oh, I remember this happening. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was nothing wrong with the Firewatch videos. He didn't do anything with Firewatch videos. But because of him using the N-word on a PUBG stream, they filed for a takedown on all of his videos. So I read a little bit about this, and legally they're allowed to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Apparently they can revoke a license at any time for any of their copyrighted work. So he sort of got mad about it and, said that he was fine or all these things. Like, look, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't watched any of his stuff, but I mean, based on those two facts that I know about him, not a huge fan.
Yeah, it's not my place to comment at all, but is there a reason as to why they specifically?
Well, they were the only ones, but I guess they just sort of, they just decided they were not cool with it, so they just said, no, we've had enough. Now, that led to some PewDiePie fan people review bombing the game on Steam. So, from what I looked now, the Steam reviews are actually not too bad. Like, it's 36,000 positive, 5,500 negative, which I don't know what the average ratio is on Steam, but that sounds alright.
That sounds fair.
But on Metacritic, the game, which we normally do the reviews at the end, but on Metacritic, the game has 81 from critics, but only 6.9 from reviewers. And I read through a lot of those from users,
Jesus Christ.
And I read through a lot of those user reviews, and there are a lot of zeros that just say, oh, they sued PewDiePie, 0.
Oh, PewDiePie was in trouble. 0.
0. Like, exactly. There were critiques on the game, but
but
I'd say like in the top 3 complaints were PewDiePie. That was why they gave it a 0. So
it's this. I mean, this isn't a podcast on review bombing or anything, but the same happened with on IMDb with the Game of Thrones episodes too.
Yeah, I mean, people just review bomb for the lulz a lot of the time.
People are babies.
People love to review bomb.
People suck.
But yeah, I just thought that was interesting because it sort of was a bit of an unprecedented legal sort of thing that they followed copyright for a video that didn't actually have anything in it that they didn't like, but just because they didn't like the specific person that had done it. And yeah, from the legal standpoint, they're completely fine to do that. They can decide who and who can't have their license. So there's a lot of arguments that on their website, on Firewatch website, it just says everyone is free to use this game as much as they want. But like I said, you can just revoke that at any time legally. So I mean, there's two sides to this. In this case, I personally think fine, whatever. PewDiePie has enough money anyway. If you want to take a stand against him, that's your prerogative. On the other hand, in a different situation, those powers are quite strong.
My argument would be, if it doesn't affect Campo Santo directly, or, if this were another company in another situation, I don't think it's... Well, does it make me seem like a bad person if I say I don't think it's fair? Because, it's not my place to comment on the whole thing. But also, if you're doing something like that and then you're getting punished for something, something else you've done completely unrelated is getting punished as a result of that.
Yeah, but I mean, like this thing that he had with Disney, that was just dropped.
Yeah,
and
course.
That's because Disney. It's like there's all these contracts that people sign with
can
things
we even
have
say Disney without getting
getting struck. No, well, but so he had a partnership with them, and because of this Jew video, they dropped him. But these, they have all morality clauses in all these things, and it's in my opinion, there should be there is an implied morality clause between publisher or developer and YouTuber when they give you the right to stream or play their game on video and make money off it. That they have an implied morality clause that they think you're a good person and you will uphold that.
Yeah.
So
did PUBG do anything?
Not that I can tell. I mean, look, it basically all the flack here went on Campo Santo for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone else did anything against him. But as I was saying, in this particular situation, I am completely okay with a takedown on these grounds. But those powers are if you watch any YouTubing or not even just gaming, any basically YouTube, DMCA takedowns for pretty petty reasons or unfounded reasons are common, and YouTube just sort of does whatever people ask them to. If someone files a copyright strike, people can file copyright strikes and not even own the copyright to things. And if they just file a strike, YouTube will take it down. It's possible.
We should probably.
I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I mean,
love you, YouTube. Yeah, I think you could argue
there's plenty
Campo
of videos
Santo
against
shot themselves in the foot with this, but also I don't think they were wrong to do so.
No, and I mean, this was a while after the game came out anyway, so it's like people that were buying it had bought it, but it's not like they ruined their own launch. But yeah, I just think that the general idea of these straight away just being able to take down videos whenever they want, really, for any reason, is a bit of a slippery slope. But in this particular situation...
it has the potential to be much, much worse. I think this was like... I would argue it's a good thing. Not for Campo Santo, but, Yeah, I think it was... I don't want to say it's the right thing to do, but I think their position was justified to say, we don't want your videos of our game on YouTube. Yeah. So that was a bit of a side discussion. But that was something that happened in history. That was something notable in history. So as I mentioned, in 2018, Campo Santo was bought by Valve, who obviously runs Steam. So they had a game called In the Valley of the Gods scheduled to come out 2019. Obviously has not come out yet. And recently, I think one of the two leads, I think it was Vanneman, came out and said that it's still going to be a thing, but they don't know when it's going to come out. Right now they're working on stuff for Steam, the actual Steam client. Yeah. They're working on stuff for Dota. They're working on the Half-Life VR prequel. Half-Life Alyx.
Half-Life Alyx. Yeah. I don't know how you say it. But
I haven't played Half-Life.
No. Half-Life Alyx. So they're working on that VR prequel thing. And so basically their sort of team is not committed to Valley of the Gods right now, but it's still going to be a thing eventually, they say. Yeah,
so I mean, to have Firewatch be your first thing out the gate, congrats.
Yeah, they did well, and I think most of the team's still there. So whenever they do branch off, this one is sort of like, from reading the general description, it's like an Egyptian Tomb Raider-y type deal. Okay. That's what it sounds like, but I assume it'll fit a lot of the same gameplay molds that this game did. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I've got on history. That was a bit of a...
That's fair.
Yeah. It got a bit intense there, but that's part of the game. So that was something that happened. So we will go for another quick break, and we'll come back, and we will run through the whole game with spoilers. And so if you're leaving us here for the spoilers, don't forget to, subscribe to the whatever. I don't know if we're on YouTube. We're still thinking about it. This is still pre-launch as we record this.
If we are, we might be DMCA'd.
If we're on YouTube, we might already get taken down. So subscribe if we are on YouTube, or whatever you do to podcasts, do that as well.
Listen to
comment. Them. Yeah, do all these things. Comment what games you would like to see us do in the future.
That's a good point, yeah.
We won't know about them until a fair way down the line, because we're going to record these in advance.
We'll get there.
But eventually we will see your comments when we launch these. If you're leaving us here, we'll talk to you then.
See ya.
What's in this cave down here?
NFS tells people not to go too far in there. It's pretty dangerous. You're in it, aren't you?
It doesn't seem that dangerous. Whoa! Ah, no!
Henry!
Seriously, it's completely fine in here.
Damn it. That storm knocked out the phone line I used to talk to the service, which means we're cut off.
I'll see what I can do.
You think you'll take to it? Being out here? The isolation gets to people. I don't talk to the other lookouts as much as I talk to you. Not in the same way.
What makes me so special?
2 young women have been reported missing. You're probably the last person to have seen them.
Hey, you kids! Somebody cut the comms.
What?
I'm out here and the wire is cut clean through.
Wait, you're already there? You're not in your tower?
No, I'm not.
Then who is?
We have returned on the Past Play podcast, and we are talking about Firewatch, and it's time to, break down this story.
Full spoilers.
Full spoilers ahead. This is the spoiler zone right now, so watch out.
So, we've broken it up. Okay, so...
The game takes place in days.
Yeah, they break it up into days, so it's like, day 1, day 2, day 30 or something?
There are 79 days that take place in the timeline of the game. There are not that many that you actually play. You play, 10 or something, and some of them are quite short. But yeah, we're going to break it up into days and do it that way. technically on day 0, or the prologue is where you start the game, and you're playing a text adventure, basically.
Yeah, it's backstory.
So, I mean, I don't want to, tell the developers why they did things, but my opinion of this
is the right way to do it.
Is that part of the reason this was all text is technically they didn't want to create all these cutscenes. They don't have any cutscenes in the game.
The thing is,
so
you need more. You need character models.
You have to have all these character models. Yeah, that's the other thing about this game is that there are technically you don't see any character models. You see a really distant silhouette of some girls in day 1, and a silhouette of a man also in day 1, but you don't actually ever see a built character model.
Dead body?
Yeah, okay, fair play. Dead body.
Helicopter man?
Dead body. Even Dead Body has a thing over his head, rocks over his head, and Helicopter Man. Trivia tidbit from the audio logs, or the audio developer commentary, is that the Helicopter Man that picks you up at the end of the game
is the same
is Henry. Is Henry's character model, because that's the only character model they had in the game. So
they did text adventure because it's easy.
Yeah, that's part of it, and also because
it
explains the story to you quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't,
and you get a bit of agency to make your own choices here too, even though it all ends up in the same place.
Yeah.
I guess this is actually the only sort of telltale loop. I was talking about it earlier. This is like a telltale loop where you can make quite radically different choices within the text adventure part of it, and then but they'll all loop back at the end.
It all amounts to the same. Yeah.
So basically, you meet. I believe it starts in 1979 or 75, something like that. Yeah. The game itself takes place in 1989. But you start back in 1979, I think, and you meet Julia, who is your future wife. You meet her in a bar, you can talk to her. So it's sort of, it just gives you either just a single text, like a paragraph of text, and then either a single option that you just click to advance to the next point, or two binary options that you can choose. Yeah. And they range from something as trivial as what type of dog do you buy?
Yeah, how do you introduce yourself?
How do you introduce yourself? What type of dog do you buy? But to as quite big as, for example, when she has dementia, do you choose to keep her at home and look after yourself, or do you send her to a medical facility?
Yeah.
So I always chose to look after her myself.
I did too. I think it's.
When I did my audio playthrough, I sent it to the nursing home.
I don't want to talk about morals in this.
Yeah,
but I think
I struggle to, when I play games, I very much struggle to be a dick. It's hard. Yeah. Even if I want to, I didn't want to choose anything different, even though I knew most of what I'd chosen last time. For me, a lot of choices are yes, this is the choice.
Yeah.
And you'd weigh it up, but at the end you might go, once I've decided this is the best course of action. So, and I don't know if it was intended, but just the way... So, you have the option to flirt with Delilah during the game, right?
Yeah.
So, and quite overtly at one point.
That.
But, so in this, right, if you send her, because obviously you didn't choose it, if you send her to the medical facility, her family's happy with that, they like it, but they still don't like you overall. But her sister comes and sort of visits her every day, and you don't visit her as much because, you're a bit of a dick at the end of this text adventure part. But there's just a line in there, and I'm not sure if it's what they intended, but it just sort of says something like, Susan's really nice, which is her sister.
Oh, okay.
And, to me, that sort of just triggered, that you're having thoughts about her or something, I don't know if that was intended, but that's how I read it, having played through the game twice previously.
I think that's a fair... Based on Henry's character development, I'd say that's a fair call.
Yeah, he very much runs from his problems. I mean, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
But yeah, he's looking for any excuse to not face this sort of stuff. And I mean, it would be hard, obviously, to face something like that.
Yeah.
She's got, I think she's 41 when she gets diagnosed, super early onset dementia, which is a bit rough.
Yeah. So you meet her in the bar. And then it's you talk, and then it's
you get married. She draws you or something at one point, and you get to choose how you pose.
Isn't that Oh yes,
no,
yeah, okay.
She also draws you later, but you get to choose how you pose, and then
that's in your.
And then so the other thing we didn't mention is that these are sort of parts of these blocks of text are interspersed with tiny little cutscenes. So you start in an elevator, in a garage, dumping your backpack onto the back of your pickup truck. Then you go into some more text. Then you arrive at the trailhead of the national forest. You cut again. And so one of the times you cut back, you have like a journal there that when you open it, it actually does show the drawing in the pose you chose. So it's sort of like immediately telling you that it may not be a big deal, but the things you choose, the game remembers them.
Yeah. It's nothing like... The way you are drawn in this book is not a big
doesn't
plot
affect
element.
the game. That's what I mean. But it's just nice to know that there's continuity there. That like it's not just a generic thing.
Yeah. So you meet her, you get married. She's a professor doing...
I don't know what her subject is, but
something biology, I think.
Maybe.
Anyway, so she ends up having trouble at her work. She's like freaking out or something, and because
of the dementia. So they put her on leave, and then they sort of basically get rid of her. And like, there are tough choices in there that don't affect the story. Like you can choose. I thought a tough choice was when she wants to take a job out of town, and you can't choose to go with her. You can either try and convince her not to go, or try and convince her to travel back and forth.
Or commute. Both of which are.
They both end up at the same. They both end up in the same place, which is the dementia starts, and she has the same dementia story about like someone borrowing her books, and then she freaks out because she forgot. No matter which university she's at. Yeah. But it's sort of there's not a real good option there. Like I want to be a nice guy and travel. I mean, I'm just a piece of text. It doesn't really affect me. Yeah. I'm not living this life. Henry can do whatever he wants.
But eventually you choose to put her in the home
or not, or keep her. And look after her yourself. Way, if you put her in the home, you stop visiting her after a while, or like visit her less and less, and then she starts remembering you less and less. And if you keep her, you eventually, without having any agency as the player, you just start going out. You put her to bed, and then you go out drinking. Yeah, and it's like you have the option to like barricade her in her room or let her roam sleep.
Yeah, and it's like. Yeah, it's not.
So
good.
It gets pretty dark, and then you basically eventually you arrive at your Firewatch lookout tower.
Yeah, you end up.
Yeah, they end up. Either way,
you get done for drink driving, and then her sister comes over, and then her parents come over.
Yeah, either way, they take her back to Melbourne, Australia. Yeah. And then you sort of wallow for a bit. And then
you kind of run, I suppose.
Yeah, then you take this ad for this fire watching job.
This is an escape.
It's like a 3-month gig over summer is how they... look, we don't have towers like this in Australia, but from what I understand, you take it for like 3 months over the summer while it's fire season, and then you sort of go back to your life.
There's a bit of a hot topic issue giving our...
Australia needs some fire lookout towers, I think.
Ooh, okay.
So you arrive at the tower, it's like, and Delilah sort of first introduces herself to you. Yeah. She just sort of asks you like weird questions, which sort of sets up her
what
sort
are you
of
here
character.
For? Oh, everyone that's here has run away from something.
Yeah, and you have to choose what you think of her, and you can basically say like that she's murdered all her past husbands, that she's rebelling against her mum.
Just some tongue-in-cheek
sort of
dialogue.
Weird, sort of, tough. And then she reveals later that she was drunk during this interaction. But and then you sort of... So that's day 0, and then you sort of go to sleep and wake up on day 1. Mm-hmm. But you've slept most of day 1 away. It's like 6:45 p.m. when she first calls you. So this is like... The early game is very much like... You're just living the mundane life of a Firewatch dude. Yeah. And then the late game sort of goes a bit crazy. But so to start off, it's pretty basic. She calls you, and you sort of learn... the game teaches you the sort of contextual radio system. So you can radio in when you... there'll be little icons that tell you when you can radio in, and it may depend on what you're looking at. Mm-hmm. It may depend on when you enter a certain zone. Yeah. So, if you walk into, I don't know, a nice meadowy area... There'll be a little thing that comes up on the screen that says
report
meadow, and then you can say I'm in a meadow. Hey, so you can talk so it's something that you don't have to do, but you can talk as much or as little as you want really to her. So she sort of teaches you that by making you look at the little table in the middle of your room that is supposed to track fires but doesn't do anything gameplay wise. And then you sort of your conversation gets interrupted by some fireworks that are going off. So she sends you down to the edge of the lake to teach these no good kids a lesson.
Don't.
don't do fireworking. So you sort of you head out and she didn't give you any rope, so you have to get some.
Yeah.
So there's like little ranger cash boxes placed around the world.
Yeah.
And the code is 1234 for all of them.
Which is nice.
It's good.
It's good.
And they get creative with the like the default codes that are set. So like, there'll be one that's 5555, or there'll be like they'll set it as like 2468.
Yeah.
So sort of, just little numbery tricks that sort of...
It's nice.
And so you always just put in 1, 2, 3, 4.
Stupid, there's no mundane puzzles or anything in this game you gotta faff about with.
No, so you just sort of head down and open it, you get this rope, and then there's sort of like an optional side sort of area, like line where the notes between these two dudes, that they don't really play into anything.
Yeah.
There's just some like you can collect notes, but most of them aren't relevant to the game. So... Yeah, there's a note between two guys that sort of they continue a conversation throughout all the cash boxes that you visit, or most of them. And you head to this massive cliff shell slide thing that's there. And the first 2 times I played this game, did not know you can name this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so the way, if you because I think I got there and I was like, hey, I'm at the shell slide. And she's like, all right, cool. And then I just head down. But if you don't head down immediately, you can then talk again, and you can be like, man, it's pretty steep, I'm going to die. And she's like, oh, really? Why? And you can, name it 3 different things.
Oh, okay.
And then he'll write it on the map. So the best option is, my boss is going to get me killed hill.
Oh, really?
But there's some sort of generic ones, like Widowmaker or something.
Yeah.
And so he'll actually write on his map, boss is going to get me killed hill.
That's pretty good.
And then, this is where you appreciate playing it multiple times, is it's like, based on that, he'll sort of say it, when he falls, because you start to go down and your rope snaps and you fall, and he'll say something different based on it. Like when you'll call in and you'll be like, my boss almost got me killed, because that was what you just said. So he has a different line basically, no matter what, depending on which one you call it.
That's good.
Yeah, and that's sort of the little details that go into it. Like they've recorded so much dialogue that you're not going to hear every playthrough, and you can't hear every playthrough.
I suppose. Yeah, I said that. You wouldn't really need to do multiple playthroughs, but the only reason you would is to get
Yeah, if you're really into it, there is nice little dialogue quirks and things. There was... What was it? There was some... Later on in the game, well, I still remember it, I'll talk about it, but there's some point where I was just listening to all the audio logs and they're almost mutely talking in the background.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how I trigger the dialogue, but she just started talking about flapjacks or something. And I never got this in my previous playthroughs. And then later on, it turns out you can name the fire the flapjack fire. Which I never even knew that was a thing. I didn't even get that dialogue.
She mentioned something about, she calls someone a flapjack or something. And then Henry's like, oh, what the hell's a... And she's like, oh, you've never called someone a flapjack? It means an idiot or something. And he's like, oh, okay, cool.
I missed that whole conversation tree both times I played through it. I think it might have just been because, when you're doing the audio commentaries... The game doesn't realize that you're doing the audio commentary, so it just thinks you're lost. Yeah. So I got so many triggers for you go, oh yeah, I'm lost, where do I go? And she's like, yeah, you better go up this way. And then I'm still just standing there listening to the audio log, and so I call in again, yeah, I'm still here, I'm still at the same spot. Where am I supposed to be going? Yeah, so I've assumed that dialogue triggered because I was slower than I was in my regular playthrough. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you don't hear that it's not important.
No.
But it's it's building your own world within a linear story.
That's the thing. You play a Telltale game again for the different choices, even though they amount to the same. But this you'd only play for different dialogue.
Yeah, you're building. You're just getting different dialogue and sort of experiencing the same events in a different sort of mindset, I guess.
But if you wanted your own definitive playthrough, this is how, for me, Firewatch happened, you'd only play it once.
Yeah, and then, I mean, it'd be similar enough to your playthrough or my playthrough that we could talk about the game.
Yeah.
And know everything. But, there's this sort of side conversations that we're talking about now, that are different.
Yeah.
So, you fall down the slide, and then you're at sort of the edge of the lake, and there's sort of well, not right at the edge, but you're, just behind it, and there's a whole big setup of, the girls' campsite, so you can be a good lookout and clean up all their beer cans if you want.
Why would you do that?
They do stay there if you don't clean them up for the next couple of days.
Okay.
But eventually they disappear. But yeah, if you can sort of so that's like another thing where, it doesn't matter, but if you go back on day 2, the cans will still be there if you don't clean them up.
Yeah.
You can you can steal their whiskey, you can, which I always do.
Yeah.
You can confiscate their fireworks and sort of stuff like that. And then all their clothes are there because they're like out skinny dipping in the lake. So you sort of head around, and the audio commentaries taught me this is one of the most complicated things in the game, talking to these girls. It's actually one of the only face-to-face conversations you have in the entire game. Probably the only face-to-face conversation. And it's not really,
it would be.
It's not really super face-to-face because they're like miles out in the lake and sort of just silhouettes because they haven't got character models for any of these people. But like, you can do different things. So when you first call into Delilah, you see them, they see you and they start talking to you.
Yeah.
So you can do stuff like, you can just yell at them or whatever. You can apparently throw the fireworks at them.
Oh, okay.
If you're still carrying them. You can pick up their boombox and then they'll go, "What are you doing? Put down that boombox. Put down that boombox." And then you can put it down and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool." Or you can just throw it in the lake.
I threw it in the lake.
Yeah. I was thinking about throwing it in the lake the first time.
I threw it in the lake, absolutely.
But I wasn't sure how good my arm was. I didn't want to walk into the water, so I just sort of put it back.
Yeah.
But, and then that changes things later on, because later on you, in day 2, you sort of find out that their camp's been trashed, which we'll get to. But when I throw their boombox in the lake, like Delilah asks you, "Oh my god, what did you do to them?" And you're like, "Well, I stole their whiskey," or "I threw their boombox in the lake," and stuff like that. And so that sort of just changes how things react. So you can do a bunch of different things, and so they needed to work out, like, they have to account for all these different options that you can choose. Like, if you choose to pick up the boombox, then put it down, then throw fireworks at them, then say this, like, how it all plays out. And it actually even goes so far as if what you says causes them to call you a creep, you will then refer to the shadowy figure later in the day as a creep.
Oh, okay.
And if they don't call you a creep, you'll just refer to him as some guy.
Okay.
So it's like some sort of like, I don't know, Pavlovian sort of thing where you've heard a word, so you then repeat it later in the day.
That's pretty cool.
So they go in that far into sort of the psychology of it. So basically they sort of run off behind a rock. They don't even come back for their clothes, like whatever.
No, they go behind the rock and then
you assume that they come back.
Disappear.
You assume that they come back later.
Yeah.
And so actually we'll talk about voice actors now because I just remembered a voice actor thing. So voice actors. Henry is played by Rich Sommer, who I have not seen Mad Men, but he is in Mad Men. He's like a main cast member.
He was in Wet Hot American Summer.
Yes. I sort of know his voice, but I looked at his filmography and I don't know anything that he was in. But yeah, he was a main cast member, and Mad Men was his number one thing that I saw. Delilah is played by, I've forgotten her name, Cissy Jones.
Yeah, Cissy. Yeah.
And she was Katja in The Walking Dead, Telltale.
She was in The Walking Dead.
She
played Commander Sloan in Destiny 2.
Oh, you don't know about Destiny that much. Don't know that much about Destiny. And these two girls were both in The Walking Dead in some capacity. Now, one of them was Lily, who in The Walking Dead, Lily's the one that you like is fighting with Kenny for leadership for the first 3 episodes of season 1.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other girl played like a few minor characters, I think. Someone called Bonnie. I don't know. She was in 400 Days, I think. And I think so. And a few other. And she did play someone in the first actual season, I think. Maybe she played Sasha? Is there a Sasha? I don't know. Anyway, she played a couple. But there's a lot of Telltale Walking Dead alumni in this game. So that's why we're talking about voice actors. And yes, so you sort of head off now because you've got to go back to your tower, but you can't go back the way you came because you fell down a cliff. So you have to head through the canyon. Pretty basic. You just walk through. There's dialogue the whole time.
Yeah.
They fill a lot of the walking time with dialogue. As long as you don't like take forever, they fill a lot of time.
That's the thing. There's a lot of there is so much. I don't want to call it busy work, but there's just a lot of roaming around. So it's good that they intersperse it with. If it was just talk at location, walk to new location, talk. This would be the worst game I've ever played in my life.
Yeah, there's a lot, you don't mind walking from place to place because you're just having a bit of banter.
There's stuff happening while you're walking. Yeah.
And that's where this sort of thing about the design with the triggers comes in. So it's like, if you do take ages to wander around some area and just look around for all the stuff, then when you get to the next trigger point, they'll go, well, it's been ages since she's talked to you, so let's have her talk to you now.
Yeah.
And so you head through the canyon, and there's another cash box there, and you find a flashlight. Now, you obviously don't have to pick up this flashlight.
Yeah, I was
technically.
no, yeah.
Because you can see in the dark pretty easy. Like,
Do you ever have to use it?
you
never have to use anything.
You never have to do anything really. So you could never pick this flashlight up and just walk into the cave blindly, but most people are going to pick it up because it's there, and you blind yourself in the face with it because of course. And you head into this cave and there's like a locked gate there, and that sort of teases future events.
Yeah.
So she tells you that the key was lost.
Yeah, it's Chekhov's going. Oh, here's a gate. Oh man, I wonder if that'll factor in later.
Yeah, so they sort of in the commentary they sort of likened it to like a Metroidvania style game, even though it's not. It doesn't play like one, but it's in terms of the area progression it does. So there's like maybe 3 or 4 different things that you need. So you need actually there's maybe 5. So you need ropes.
Mm-hmm.
You need the axe. You need the key. You need the pitons that you stab into the wall. That's 4. I think it was right on 4 on the first time. And so they all block off different areas that you can head to. So that's sort of... It keeps you to a point on rails, but not nearly enough. Like, you can just wander off, but there won't be much there.
No.
But it does force a bit of linearity, so you can't just immediately break into the compound in the first minute.
You can't speed run this game. Well, I mean, I'm sure
there are points you can.
But it's not like I've talked about Gone Home before. I think where you can finish that game in like
1 minute. If you know where to go.
1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's gating that keeps some order of the story in the right spots, but other points that you can just wander off and skip past.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and then you climb out of this cave, and then. They cleverly, as you do a vault animation, they cleverly make the dude appear, so you're looking at the ground while they spawn him in. Because obviously, once you know it's going to happen, once you're like staring at the spot, and then you have to climb, and then he's there. So as I mentioned before, you either call him a creep or some guy, and you report this on the radio. This is one of my favourite interactions in the game.
Yeah. There's some guy out here.
Some guy? Wait, he's looking at you? Is he doing anything else?
I don't think so.
Henry, there's something someone should have told you about this area.
What is it?
It's outside.
Come on.
The whole thing. And people come and go as they please. It's madness.
Yeah, okay. I get it.
Look, bumping into someone in the middle of nowhere is part of the fun.
And then that's the type of banter that you get throughout the game.
It's a good back and forth the whole game.
Because she's very snarky and sarcastic, and you can choose to either play it straight or
you can push your buttons and it's good.
There's some sort of lichen pun or something at one point, and you can continue it. Or there's definitely a lightning one where she does. I missed most of it in the audio commentary because this is another one that I didn't get in my regular playthrough. But they're talking about lightning, and she's like making all these lightning puns about bolts and things, and then you can make a pun like a charge pun, and then or you can just say it normally, or you can say it with charge in all caps, so they know it's a pun. Yeah. So, there's different ways so you can play it. So you can be deadpan do a pun and, not intend it. Or you can go, this is a pun.
Yeah.
So, you can sort of... That's the... as we keep talking about, that's the dynamic. You can change the dynamic between the two of you, even though it doesn't change the overall story.
Yeah.
So you head back to your tower, and it's been trashed.
Uh-oh.
Your typewriter has been thrown out of the window. This is like a 3-story tower, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, those things are made to last.
Yeah, they're good. We need to get typewriters back. My laptop wouldn't have survived that. So you pick it up and you head back up, and your window's been smashed. There's all your stuff's been scattered everywhere. Your sheets have been stolen from your bed. It's a bit of chaos. And then so that's sort of the first. I mean, they downplay that creepy figure thing immediately with her just making fun of you about it. So this is actually the first moment that something is definitely happening.
Yes.
And then that makes you think back to that figure.
You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. And so she gives you the option to she says, oh, who do you think could have done this? And you can basically say, I think you can say, oh, I don't know, no one. Or you can say, those girls because I pissed them off. Or you can say, oh, there was a creepy figure.
Yeah.
And then she'll sort of say, all right, well, I'll put out a lookout for whoever you said.
Mm-hmm.
So, which doesn't matter again, but it's just it fits. It's not like you said, oh, the creepy figure, and she goes, oh yeah, I don't care about that guy. It was probably those girls.
Yeah.
It does do what you say, even though it doesn't affect the overall story.
It's not. She doesn't just completely dismiss your choice and say, no, we as developers think this is the right choice.
Yeah. And so then you get the first of the end of day sequences. Well, actually, you've got one at the start of day one, which is just where you're just playing and you get back in your tower, you finish the conversation, and there's just hard cut to a big scene.
There's no prompt to end day. It's just
there is in one day, I believe.
Is there?
On one day, and I think it's day 3.
Oh, okay.
We'll get there, but
it's mainly just like,
most of the time
we're having a conversation. All right, cool.
Yeah,
boom.
They'll be like, all right, this is the end of the story. Boom, black. Next day listed on the thing, whatever the next day is. So the next day is day 2 because there's a lot of stuff happening at the start of this game, and then it sort of escalates quickly. Yeah. So day 2 is you get up a bit earlier this time because as I mentioned, it's mostly dark when you spot the shadowy figure because you got up at like 6:45. So this is when you get up in the morning, so it's a lot better. And the phone line has been put down, like it's down.
Yeah.
So Delilah sends you out to find if the phone line's damaged in your area, and you sort of, head off that way.
You journey up. You see that you don't find anything of real importance on the way.
There's a sort of secret area that I never found in either of my regular playthroughs, and I only found it because they helpfully put a developer audio commentary thing on my map there.
Which place?
There's like a house hanging off the edge of a cliff.
Oh, yeah.
I never found that in my regular playthroughs because you don't have to go there.
No.
So you sort of walk around and there's like a door that like you try to open it and it just like flies off, like falls down, and there's like wind and stuff because you're hanging off the edge of a cliff with the house. And you sort of, there's not much there. It's just sort of you head down and it's just, nice.
I think there's a raccoon jump scare at one point in this game, but I don't...
okay. This is actually really interesting, right?
Yeah.
So this is the place, right? There's a stove that you open up.
Yeah.
And a raccoon will jump out. But he won't jump out on day 2, which is the day that you're here.
Yeah, I was going to say,
if you open that stove on any day but day 2, the raccoon will jump scare you.
Yeah, okay.
So the idea, I guess, is you notice it the first time, and then you might be intrigued to go back another day, and you'll get something different.
Okay.
Which I'm not sure why there's no raccoon on day 2.
Yeah, I never didn't get raccoon jump scare, so I guess I mustn't have come across the house on day 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do come back here. You don't really come back here till the end, but I mean. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
This is what they're telling me in the audio commentary. And I didn't get one when I opened it because they were talking about it. And I was like, what? There was no raccoon jump scare. And he's like, well, actually, it's only on day... It's not on day 2. So you eventually head along and, at the top of this big cliff, which I think is called Beartooth Point.
Sure, yeah.
You can see that the phone line's been cut across a chasm. Mm-hmm. And so you head up there and you start spotting beer cans.
Beer cans.
The same beer cans that the girls were using last time.
Red Eagle or something, I think.
Red Eagle,
yeah.
And, you climb up there and there's like a little, I don't know, like a cloth or something that has written on it. It's like...
I think it's their underwear.
Yeah, probably. And it says, you're a dick or something like...
Sure, yeah.
I hate you, Ranger
oh,
dude
you're
or
a
something.
creep. You're
whatever.
us.
And so, right next to the phone line, and then obviously you're like, oh, okay, well, the girls...
It's the girls, yeah.
Now, knowing the end, why were the girls up there?
I want to get back to this.
We'll get back to this one a bit later on. But I'm not sure this one makes sense.
I know.
I'm a little bit, I mean, it does if it's just by chance that the girls happen to be up there. But, look, not everything has perfect continuity. Interesting side point from up here is on the commentary is that they said that in the trailer... At this point, after you check the cut phone line, Delilah says, "Oh, there's someone you're back in your tower, are you?" And you look, and then that's the end of the trailer.
Oh, okay.
So that's actually a moment that happens in this game much later, but they put it here to give you an idea of what the game would be without actually spoiling it for you.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, which I liked.
That's
you
a
can't
good point
always
to do
do
it. Trailer. That's good.
So because you get to this point and it doesn't happen, and you go, "Oh, that's a bit weird." I guess they took that out. And then it happens later, and you go, oh, okay. So they weren't false promising you because it is something that's in the game.
They just
changed it to put you off balance so you weren't ready for it.
Yeah.
So you have a sort of trail of beer cans to follow. Mm-hmm. And then this is the first time if you go before that. Mm-hmm. You cross a little log and there's a backpack.
Oh,
hanging on a tree.
Yes, okay.
So you get that down and you get ropes, which is nice, and you get your disposable camera.
Which is useless.
Which is, it's nice for taking photos. Takes some nice.
You know what else takes
shots.
photos?
Screenshots.
Yep.
Excellent screenshot.
Yep.
Yeah, but they don't take Canon photos in the game
Look,
with a Canon
if
camera.
I'm walking around in public and I say Xbox screenshot that, I'll be looked at like a weirdo.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the first time you believe you have to say like Brian Goodwin's name because he's the owner of the backpack. I believe you have to say that. You can't not speak.
Isn't he referenced earlier? Or is this the first?
This is the first reference to him because she goes,
Okay.
"What, Brian Goodwin?" And then you get to like guess.
Oh,
who it
that's
is.
right. You're
and
like,
you can guess
is
like
he an
ex-boyfriend or
Yeah.
a lookout or a ranger.
Yeah.
When the real answer is the kid of a lookout
Yeah.
who wasn't supposed to be out there
No.
because you're not supposed to take your kids, but Delilah let it go
Mm-hmm.
and sort of left him out there, and that sort of becomes. That's a tease for one of the main mysteries of the game, really.
The main mystery?
Probably the...
Well,
yeah.
no. I wouldn't call it a mystery.
It's not a mystery now, but it will be. Actually, it's not really a mystery ever.
I don't think it's ever a mystery.
It's not a mystery until it's solved.
Yeah,
and then you realise it was a mystery.
Yeah.
But you never think it's a mystery. But yeah, so you get your camera, you get your ropes, you head down. This is the first time, if you take a certain path, you can encounter the fence to
the
Wapiti Station.
Wapiti Station.
So you just go, oh, that's a bit weird, there's a fence. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't know there was a fence.
They're there sometimes because
That's
bikers or something, like cyclists. And you're like, no, there's a big fence.
Yeah, there's a massive fence. Yeah, I think she was like, oh, sometimes they cordon off like 2 meters of stuff. And you're like, yeah, no, this fence bigger.
Yeah, a bit more than 2 meters.
Now, this is another one where it's like, okay, maybe, but what it turns out is this fence is like for official scientific research.
Yes.
And like, wouldn't Delilah know about official scientific research?
There is...
I can let this one go, but
I
want to bring it up.
We need to burn through all of this because I have a lot I need to talk about.
Okay,
yeah.
well, yeah, look, this is another one where there's continuity, maybe. Like, I can get by this one and say, well, maybe they didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to tell people everything that happens, but she is like the boss of all the fire lookouts in the area. So, I don't know. But, yeah, you don't have to... Now, the commentary's talked about, like... helping people find their way here because there's a trail of beer cans, but eventually they stop because they were like, man, we can't put like 55 beer cans for these girls.
Yeah.
And
they'd be dead.
so they put in, there's one marker that you can spot whenever you want, which is the thin column of smoke.
Oh, okay.
You can immediately spot that if you see it. But if you're not looking up, eventually the game sort of just shoehorns you through a path.
Yeah, and Delilah
And
says,
eventually
hey,
she'll go, hey, do you see that smoke?
Yeah.
And then you'll look.
Yeah.
And so that sort of... So you're not feeling lost. And you've got a map that, like, each cache box gives you a trail, so you can copy down the information for the trails in that area. But even without that, you can sort of see where the walls are. Like, you know where you can go and where you can't, like, which paths lead to which. So you sort of have to go along a certain way, and eventually you'll reach that point where they do tell you where to actually go. So you have to basically go all the way back through a lot of the map, because you were in the top right corner, now you go all the way back to the bottom left corner.
Yeah.
And there's not much that happens on the way, really, just general chatting.
Give me turtle?
You can, that's once you get all the way down to that bottom area,
Yeah.
there's a turtle. And, I never met Turtle in my normal playthrough. I knew there was a achievement for getting a turtle, and I was like, what turtle? So, but this is one where the little audio commentary box was not in the right spot, so I was just it wasn't exactly on the map where it said it should be, so I was just wandering the area and I found him. And so you can, again, another sort of fluffy, nice dialogue choice. You can name the turtle. I think everyone named it Turtle Reynolds.
Yeah.
You can. I can't even remember what the other choices were.
I want to say Shelley Duvall, who...
Yeah.
Is that the girl from The Shining? Maybe. Let me look it up quickly.
And then,
anyway.
I don't know, there's a third one. But yeah, you find the turtle.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of... another fluffy thing is when she draws you later on, you can choose to say that you look like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
And then when you see the drawing at the very end of the game, she shows you, like, there's a picture, there's the actual drawings in her lookout when you get there. And it just sort of says, Burt plus Turt, love heart, in the corner, because you've sort of matched it up. But yeah, so you head around, you get to the campsite. There's, this is just a weird thing from the audio commentary, is that they give you little extras. So, like, sometimes you'll walk up to a post where there's a cassette tape and there'll be concept art on a board.
Oh, okay.
So you can look at it. And here, there was just a T-posing Henry standing next to the thing, and I was like, what the hell's that? I didn't see that before. Because there's a little commentary about how they designed Henry. So that's the real. You come around the corner, and just in front of the waterfall, there's just a T-posing Henry. I'm like, whoa!
I turned the game off.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
So there's like a piece of tent hanging on a tree here, which I didn't see in my regular playthrough. I don't know how. I saw the water. I was distracted by the waterfall, I guess.
Yeah.
But you head around, and the camp has been trashed. The girls' camp, and like the whole thing's been torn up.
The tent's been torn up. Everything's scattered everywhere.
Apparently, the person who designed the tent, until like a couple of weeks before shipping, he just assumed it was torn up by a bear. Even though he knew about the final mystery, which it turns out that Ned did it, which we'll get to.
Yeah. Have we even mentioned it?
We haven't even mentioned it. Ned is Brian's father.
Yes.
He did it, but
Ned's also the creep.
Yeah, he's also the creep.
Yeah.
So it turns out that because this campsite's massacred, like it looks like a bear did it.
Absolutely demolished.
It would be quite hard for one man to do this, but so he sort of trashed all their stuff. He's torn up their tent and everything, and then they've like pinned a note to it and basically accused you of doing it. They're like, "Hey, creepy ranger dude, you ruined our tent. We're going to call the police.
You killed my stereo, and you're a creep.
Yeah.
This is you, police."
And then that's when Delilah asks you, "Oh my god, did you do anything to them?" And you can say no, or you can say, "I threw their stereo in the lake." And she's like, "Maybe you shouldn't have done that." If you say you stole their whiskey, she's like, "Oh, that's fine. I'm cool with that." They're sort of both low-key alcoholics, Henry and Delilah.
I think, alcoholism is kind of like, that's really part of the catalyst for the game, right?
Yeah,
like,
true.
He starts
his
leaning
drinking
into alcoholism.
was the cause of him coming getting separated from Julia. So you don't have to walk back; it just cuts. Once you pick up the note and tell her about it, we cut.
Bad, and she's like, day 4.
And we're at day 3.
Three now.
So day 3, this is the beginning of what they called in the game the mid-game montage, which the scenes aren't as long as a montage. The scenes are longer than a montage, but really there's like 5 or 6 days in a row here that are really short comparative to the last 2 days, especially the first 2 days and the end days.
What happened? Is day 3 where you fix your...
Day 3, all you have to do is collect 3 or 4 boards and board up your window, and she asks you what you look like so she can draw you. So if you pick up your photo with Julia... You know what you look like. You have a big scruffy beard and like everything. So you can describe that and she'll get it pretty close.
Yeah.
But you can also just say that you're...
I'm Tom Cruise's like twin brother or something.
You can say, anything really. You can say that you wear a tuxedo all the time and you have like a curly mustache thing, even though you clearly don't. And then that's what you look like in her drawing at the end. You just all you have to do is collect. So you can finish this in like 2 minutes if you just run down the stairs, collect the boards, and do it.
Have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, and then this is where she's like, this gives you the reality because she's like, you're like, all right, what do I do now? And she's like, now you sit there and you watch the fire for 3 months, see if there's any fires, and then it just cuts. And then this is the first time that you realize that the game is not going to be 79 days long because you get to day 9 next. Day 9. I have a summary here of everything you do, a detailed list-by-list thing.
I don't remember day 9.
Here we go. You eat a sandwich.
Probably why I don't remember day 9.
So you're sitting on the canyon. There's like a canyon crossing.
Oh, yeah.
You're sitting on the canyon crossing and it's like sunset and you eat a sandwich.
Is this where she says something about the girls? This is where she tells you
that the girls have gone missing.
Yeah.
She gives you their names. I think they're called like Chelsea and Lily or something. It doesn't really matter. I'm pretty sure that's what they're called.
We'll just refer to them as the girls.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely one's called Lily because the voice actor in the commentary said, "Oh, this is the 3rd time I played a Lily," because she was the one that played Lily in The Walking Dead. Yes. So that was all that happened, and then so it's like literally a minute and a half, maybe. Yeah. So they're missing. You can choose to like say, "Oh, don't say anything about it," because obviously there was a bit of controversy with, there's this note that they said that but you took it obviously, but there was a bit of interaction between you two. So you can say not to say anything. You can say you should probably tell them about it, that what we know, or whatever. Regardless of what you say, she reveals later that she said that they know nothing and never have heard of them. Yeah. Even if you tell her to say something and she says okay, which is a bit of a trend with Delilah. She's a bit of a lone wolf. This isn't, like we were saying before, that she doesn't just like railroad you into doing something, but She does here, but that's because of her own like character reasons. She has character reasons for doing things.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't just do it because the plot dictates that this must go this way.
Yeah, she is the way she is, and that's what influences the plot, I think. Well, I think it's a... You could look at it both ways, you know. She's the way she is because of the plot, but, you know...
Yeah, so, I mean, like, because it doesn't really... It's more of a character moment. It doesn't affect the plot that she didn't tell you.
No.
It's just that extra thing that panics you because you're already in a panic in the late game, and then she tells you that she didn't tell them about it. So, that's the end of day 9. Pretty simple. We skip another 6 days to day 15, another very short day, and you wake up at night, Delilah says, get on your radio, in Delilah's voice.
Yeah.
And you get on your radio, and it's Julia.
Yeah.
Because you're obviously like hallucinating or whatever.
Yeah.
So you have a little conversation with Julia. Julia, like I said, gets about 10 lines in this game.
She doesn't say much.
She doesn't say much.
Delilah sounds nice.
Yeah, she's Australian, which really we shouldn't have to do an accent because we are Australian.
No, but it's a ham-fisted.
Actually, this is where, okay. So, right, I have a weird thing that I want to bring up. It's just a life thing. It's not really a game thing. It's a life thing, right? So, we're Australian.
Yeah.
And when I talk to other people here in Australia, they just sound normal to me, right?
Yeah.
And if I see an American person that talks an American accent, I'm like you are an American.
Yeah.
But when I play this game, or really any movie or film or TV show or game that has an American cast, they just sound normal to me. And when I hear an Australian person,
because
I'm like, oh my god, this person is so Australian.
Because everyone else's perception of Australian is so ham-fisted. It's the whole...
But she is an actual Australian person.
I know,
this
but
woman.
it seems like it's really like hammed up. Like, dinky doo. Oh, I can't believe you're down at the Billabong.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it just seems weird to me that like everyone Australian seems normal in real life, and then when I see it in American, I immediately notice it. But in a show or film
I think it's
or
because
whatever,
all media
that's based on
all
Americans.
media we ingest is American.
But if I watched an all Australian show, I don't know if I would like notice everyone.
First of all, you wouldn't watch an Australian show.
You wouldn't. But you would feel like I don't know if I would feel. Yeah, I don't think I would feel like, oh man, they're also Australian.
Yeah. No.
Like, but when you put an Australian person in a like American-based game, they're so Australian.
I think because they need that differentiation between like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's hamming it up here, but like
it's pretty.
I think it's just jarring. Like you find normality, and then it sort of jars you out of it.
Yeah.
So that was just a weird life point in my life. So you know something about my life now. Accents are weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, she doesn't say much to you. Like you sort of say, "Oh yeah, I'm going okay," and then she's like, "Oh, Delilah seems nice," and you're like, "Yeah, it's pretty good."
You kind of, I mean, you can choose how you.
You can choose exactly how you respond.
You can choose how you play this out. You can be kind of dismissive, and like
I mean, anyone with any brain cells knows this is like a dream sequence immediately. Yeah. So you can just like what you say doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
In fact, really, what you say matters for Delilah because she hears you on this because you're actually using the radio, and it doesn't really matter that
because
much.
Doesn't she say something like, "Oh, you were
talking like
you were murmuring, but all I heard was Jules or something." That's what I.
Well, no, I think she sort of like she implies that she heard it all, but
she said
it's so mundane conversation that it doesn't really tell you anything. So that was day 15. Now we get a 16-day. an 18-day jump to day 33, which is another short one. You just have to you spawn like all the way out in the wilderness already, and you have to walk up to the north and get some supplies from the supply box. Yeah. This is one where I've written the words Delilah Brain because that was the name of one of the tapes.
What?
That was one of the names of the tapes in the audio commentary. Yeah. And what that was sort of where it's talking about what does she know and what she doesn't know.
Okay. Is this where you get backstory on her backstory?
Yeah. So she brings up the conversation with Jules earlier, and on the previous days, I think on day 2 mostly, you can choose to tell her about Julia or not. And, oh my god, I forgot one of the biggest points of the game. We'll come back to it in a sec. That confused me anyway. We'll come back to it from day 2.
Okay.
But right here, so apparently what happens is, if you tell her everything possible about Julia, she will tell you about Javier. If you tell her absolutely nothing about Julia, she will tell you about Javier. But if you tell her a bit, but not heaps, she won't tell you. You'll never find out that Javier exists.
Okay.
Which is weird. I guess if you say nothing, she's like, man, I better get this guy to open up, so I'll tell him my life.
Yeah.
And if you tell her everything, she's like, well, he told me everything, so I'll tell her stuff. But if you tell her a little bit, you're sort of like, you're keeping your distance, but you're not being cold.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, we're just acquaintances, it's fine, I won't tell her. Yeah. So you can go all the way until the Wapiti Station campsite before you even know Javier exists.
Okay.
Which is interesting. And these are the things that they're tracking all day long of like, what does she know and what does she not know? What does she know to be true? What does she suspect? So she has her own, that's what I've written, Delilah Brain. She has her own brain. Now, I gotta go back now.
Yeah,
On day 2, right as you start off, you head through the cave, and Delilah says, I gotta step away for a minute. And then
yes.
Then she doesn't turn off her radio, so you can hear her talking to someone else on the radio.
Look, I'm sorry. Can you hold that thought?
Sure. Just gonna keep hiking and hoping it warms up.
Heyo. I don't think so. Why, have you? Okay, good. No, I don't think he has any idea. I'm absolutely sure. Would you? All right. I'll let you know if anything changes in that regard. Hey, sorry about that.
And then she jumps back on. Now this is one of not the biggest plot hole, but they explain it in the audio commentary, but playing the game without the commentary, it's a big plot hole in the game. Because
what do they say in the commentary?
What this plays into is nothing in the end.
Okay.
So what they're saying is that this is just, in the commentary, they're saying this is just a random conversation with a random lookout, because she's in charge of all the lookouts. It's got nothing to do with Henry.
Okay.
But he can hear it, and it just feeds his paranoia. That's all it's for.
Yeah, I was gonna... Yeah, that was one of the points I wanted to bring up at the end, where you could look at a lot of this game as Delilah absolutely lying to you.
Yeah.
And I think we'll touch on that as we get more into the actual story.
Yeah, I think the first time I played it, I remember seeing a lot of that. And I thought, yeah, maybe. But playing it a second time, it doesn't feel like Delilah's... Like, especially the way they wrap everything up, it doesn't feel like Delilah's got anything, like, sinister going on.
I would like to give benefit of the doubt and view it all as she's sincere through the whole thing, but I can completely understand when you get moments like that.
Yeah,
where
that immediately puts you on suspicion.
Paranoia, and you'd be like,
and I think
okay.
The fact that you feel like they didn't pay that off, like... That's life. That's what this is.
Yeah,
not everything means something.
Yeah,
the thing is,
yeah.
You're trained as someone who plays video games that if there's some sort of built-up thing, conspiracy, there's a reason for it to be there.
If it's there,
but in life,
in
life, it doesn't always work like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not the...
That's the thing. You're not going to, like, on day 70 be like, hey, remember 68 days ago when you had a conversation?
So, at this point, when she does it, you can call her out, or you can just listen.
Yeah.
So, and the developers did say that they would have, if they could have gone back and fixed the game more, they would have put in more options in there. Because if you call her out, you're like, oh my god, what are you doing? I can't believe you had the conversation about me. And then she gets really mad and she walks away from the radio and turns it off for a while.
Yeah.
Or you can just listen and never talk about it again. And you can never bring it up again. So they were saying maybe you can probe a little bit without just getting angry about it. You know, like just say, oh, what was that about? Like, or you left your radio on there.
Yeah.
What was that conversation?
I heard that. You know, what was...
So, because I saw a thing on Reddit about this too, which is like, there are so many reasons why someone might choose to listen. You know, you might choose to listen because you want to respect her conversation with someone else and you don't want to, get involved in it.
Yeah.
You may choose to listen because you think she slipped up, and if you don't say anything, she might slip up again and you'll learn something new.
Yeah.
So there's so many different reasons why you might do that. So to give a bit more gradients to those responses. But that was a massive backtrack. But it is an important moment because I think that's one of the most criticised moments of the game and one of the things that everyone thinks is a plot hole.
That, and there's one more I can think of, which we'll get into
as we get to it
later.
Yeah, everyone sort of thinks that's a plot hole. And I mean, look, you can explain anything if you're a developer, but I get where they're coming from, which is that life is life and not everything means something. And they're just trying to build tension. But to have it not paid off or even explained really is... Yeah. And I guess in real life it wouldn't be explained. Like, would she really feel a need at the end to be like, hey, remember that conversation I had 68 days ago? What was up with that? And then she'll just be like, oh, it was nothing.
It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Because she would have done those every day with the radio off.
Yeah.
So, you wouldn't remember. So we're back to day 33.
Yep.
She's has or has not told you about Javier. You go up to the supply box. Now, there are 3 supply boxes in the box. 1 for you and 2 for the other lookouts.
Yeah.
I took mine.
What sort of dick would take 3?
Well, me on the audio commentary. Because I wanted to see what would happen. So normally you just take your own and you go back and you go to day 64.
Yeah.
If you take all 3, you get a secret day 34.
Oh, yeah?
Which is the shortest day in history. It's literally you holding a toilet roll on the way to the outhouse. Assumingly because you've ate all the food.
That's pretty funny. That's
and
pretty good.
she goes like, Henry, did you take that food? And you can either go, no, or you can go, And either way, she's like, what the hell? Like, you took everyone's food? But he's sort of like you're like, no. And he's like, no, I'm hungry. Like, just as in like, man, I'm hungry, dude.
That's pretty good.
So it's like,
that's
I
pretty
don't
good.
know. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's like, yeah, it's literally like, it was actually so quick that I had to quit the game because I was waiting for the dialogue to finish before I picked up the commentary. There's one commentary on this day, and the day ended. I was like, I've got to go back and get this commentary. I'm going to take out that swear. Yeah, so day 64 is the next day after day 34 if you see it, or after day 33 if you don't see it.
Yeah.
This is the last day of the montage, really. So it's nighttime and the fire has started.
The old flapjack fire.
Well, the whatever fire. So, yeah, I think there's only 3 options in total that you can call a fire. You can call it the big fire, which I'm assuming she's going to say no to that. I don't know. You can call it the flapjack fire, or you can call it Delilah, or you can ask to call it Delilah, and she'll say, no, we can't call it Delilah. That's a bit weird. So she calls it June. The June fire. Because that's her middle name.
Okay.
It's in July, though. Or it's in, like, October or something. I don't know. But, yeah, those are your options. So that doesn't really matter. But like, it's like your little map. You get little markings on your map, and you'll get this. Every time you look at that fire, you will see that it's called the whatever fire that you called it. So this is sort of like the closest that you get to Delilah, because you're just sort of talking during the night, and she tells you stories.
It's an intimate, like,
and you can choose to go along with it to any point that you want. So, like, she sort of says, "Oh, I wish I was over there with you," and you can say, "I wish you were too," and then
you could just be like, "Shut up."
Well, your other option is silence, which is sort of like, and then she can sort of say, "Oh, yeah, we could do this, we could that," and then you can sort of say, what could we do?
And she's like,
and then she starts telling you, and it goes down. So actually, because I didn't want to like cheat on my wife, even though she doesn't remember who I am, but I didn't want to say nothing because the only option is to say that or say nothing. So I always like went too far, and I was like, I don't really comfortable with that interaction. If you say, I wish you were here, and then you say nothing the second time when she says, like when you're sort of saying, what could we do? Then she just sort of says, yeah, we could sit and watch the fire. And that sort of like that's what I wanted this scene to end as. So it's not like fully clear how to get what you want out of that one. A lot of the time it is, like, the responses are it's quite obvious where you're going to go with it. Yeah. But this one, when there's just option is just silence or...
continue the conversation.
Yeah. So I almost always choose to continue the conversation because
I think I did too.
But it never really goes anywhere, is the thing.
I think on my first playthrough, I kind of lent into building that relationship with Delilah, and that'll come back in the ending, I suppose. But yeah, it's weird. It's a bit weird, the whole relationship thing.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to remember exactly what day it is. I don't know if I've written it down. I think it's day 78. You find... Well, actually, before that, all the way back at the start, you have one photo with Julia where you can't really see her face because she's got the camera over her face, but it's default set face down on the desk, so you can't see it. And I think on day 78, which is the second last day, you wake up and your wedding ring is on the table, not on your hand.
Yeah.
And you can choose to put it back on, or you can choose to leave it there. So that's sort of just you're making your own choice. It doesn't affect the story again, but you're making your own choice about who your Henry is.
Yeah.
So, day 64, that's the end of that. You just sort of stare at the fire, and yeah.
I think, back on the wedding ring thing, it'd probably be more... Because it's kind of out of the way, I feel like it'd be more impactful if at the end of the game you can choose to take it off.
Yeah.
Or something. As opposed to... Yeah.
But I guess the way the game ends sort of doesn't
allow
for you to choose her.
You've got to assume they changed the ending fundamentally, but like it'd be an option potentially.
Okay, so this is where it sort of gets serious again.
Yeah.
So day 76, you are off to fish.
Mm-hmm.
You have a fishing rod that you can just put in your pocket if you want. Just get rid of it. You don't actually
You got a
need it, so-
backpack.
Yeah, will a fishing rod fit in there? It's really long.
It collapses. Fishing rods
There's no
collapse.
animation for that. That's fine.
Because it's a game.
And then she sort of just offhand tells you about a bear that's around or something that's like going to kill you, just where you so you can do some more banter with her. And you walk out onto the lake area, and on this tree stump there's a clipboard. And you pick up the clipboard, and you can see like a few little maps and drawings of like your tower and the area. And you can also see transcripts of your conversation with Delilah.
Yep.
So this is where it like gets really serious, because really your tower was broken into on day 1. It is now day 76.
There's and
nothing else has
up until
happened.
now. There's no actual story.
Apart from the girls going missing, nothing else suspicious
But
has
even-
happened.
yeah.
I guess the tent thing and everything. But yeah.
But there's no, nothing's happening.
And you get something from like, I think the line is from her from the previous day 64. She says like, I don't talk to the other lookouts as much as I talk to you, at least not in the same way.
Yeah.
And so that's written on there in big all caps. And so you start to give you like, oh my God, what the hell? Someone's listening to us. And so this is where the conspiracy starts to build up. And then you hear like a radio going crazy over on the side, and you like bend down and pick it up, and you just get punched out in the back. Yeah. And like they knock you down, and it's like they stomp your head or something because you get hit a second time. And it's like, yeah. And then you wake up and it's gone, and then you're like, oh my God, what has happened?
I was beaten in the head. And it's like, are you sure?
Are you sure you were beaten in the head?
I don't know.
Have you been on like pot or something?
Have you been taking those mushrooms out there?
So you then, I think you remember from the clipboard something called Wapiti Station, which there's a place called Wapiti Meadow that she tells you about. So you head up there, and then so this is another one of those ones where you don't have to do that. You don't have to head up there first. You can just leg it for the firefighter's place, but you don't know where that is really at the time. So you head up there, and you sort of have to try and get in this gate that you can't get into. You can punch it.
This gate that you could, in a real world sense, climb over.
You could probably climb over the fence, yeah.
If you go to
it's
the
not really
very
barbed
end, you can
wire,
see
and there's a
that-
rock here that you can sort of jump
Just
over.
go around.
But you try and punch it. You can pick up a rock, try use it. You have to do at least 2 of the 3 things. There's apparently
You can
a
use
stick.
a stick to-
I never saw the stick,
Yeah.
but I was like, I heard it on the developer commentary as I was leaving because like I grabbed one and then leg it to the next place while I was trying to speed run this with commentary, so I was already off. But apparently, like, and again, this is where like you get some sort of contextual dialogue. Whereas if you try and break it with just a rock and your hands, you'll go, I can't get in. But if you use all 3, he's like, oh, I've tried everything. There's no way I'm getting in this place. So
Have you tried climbing? Like, no.
no, I can't climb.
Speaking of climbing, this dude is the most this dude jumps off like 10-foot things.
Yeah, he
lands
jumps
perfectly fine.
I mean,
my knees would be dead. This
the
guy's
audio
like-
commentary, all they were saying was like, yeah, we wanted to make it like feel like he was fat and he was really unfit.
This dude's just leaping off.
Yeah.
And like my
the
knees
way
would be...
the way you he's like the way you climb, we made it pretty clear that you're fat. Like,
I mean, yes.
I don't know. So yeah, so she basically directs you to the firefighters' compound that have been doing like a controlled burn.
Yeah.
To try and see if they can give you something to get in the gate. And you head down that way. There's like a pond. It's called like Pork Pond or something. And she like offhandedly mentions that the sign keeps getting stolen or something. And then of course at the end of the game, she has that sign up in her
I didn't notice that.
lookout.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like another, just like a little nod that if you did that dialogue, you get rewarded for it.
Yeah.
You eventually get your way in. It's like they've set up in a like scout camp, so there's a few like little scout bunkers and things, but they're obviously not there because you don't see anyone in this game.
Yeah.
But they conveniently left an axe behind in a tree for you. This was actually a cool thing that you get from the commentary. So that, actually, if you went the other way, there's like a whole field just filled with T-posing people in different places, including one like miles away on top of the hill.
I need to go back and look at this.
But in here, there's actually a cool little TV screen where you walk up to it and you can see your character model in the third person as if like it was in Unity, and you have no head to start with.
Yeah.
But you can see yourself like pick up things because there's like a can there, and there's a second axe there you can grab too, so you can see him do the axe grabbing animation.
That's pretty cool.
And there's a couple of those. There's one at the end of the game too where you can just see yourself wearing headphones with no head. But yeah, because they've got the camera on top of Henry's body.
Yeah.
There's no head.
Yeah.
You're just walking around headless. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah.
And actually, another cool one from the commentary. I'll mention it now. It's from a previous day, but there's actually a big platform where they've got like a clock face of buttons that you stand on, and each one of them changes the day cycle. So you can change it to night.
Oh, is this the medicine wheel?
No, not the medicine
okay.
wheel. It's just it's a completely arbitrary platform that's not in the game in the normal playthrough. But you go up there, and there's like a tape about the skybox. And you can walk through and it'll change all the states. So you can change it to the last day where it's all foggy and all smoky and hazy. You can change it to like, the sun will move around to midday or nighttime or whatever. Like it'll actually move through the sky. So that's pretty cool. So you get your axe and
you go back.
You start to head back. And then you're just chatting, you're like, oh man, this is a bit of conspiracy. And then suddenly someone's coughing on the radio.
What an idiot.
Yeah, he's a bit of an idiot, this dude. But, I mean, maybe he did it intentionally to freak you out.
Yeah, but I think he's just an idiot.
He's a bit of an idiot. So, well, he does immediately, start, he's flailing around. Because you hear him cough, and then you hear, clattering metal as he's, desperately trying to turn off his radio. Because he's obviously tapped into yours, and he's accidentally coughed in it. So, he's desperately trying to turn it off. And you sort of, freeze, and you leg it back to the... She's like, get back in the tower. Don't call anyone. Don't talk to anyone. I mean, not there's anyone that's talked to you, but... Don't call me back. So you run back in there, you hide, and the day ends. Day 76. So, day 77, you basically start sitting in your chair on the radio going hey, I've called you 50 times. And she's like, she just told you not to call her at all. So you're like, hey, I called you 50 times. And then she calls back super happy.
She's super chipper. She's like, man, it is a fantastic
hey, it's a wonderful day here today. And you're like, what the hell's going on? And then obviously, eventually you start to...
Yeah,
cotton on.
Yeah,
it's about to be a pun. You'll get it in a minute. Cotton on to the fact that she's trying to keep a straight face, keep up appearances
Situation
with
normal.
this person.
Yeah.
So she directs you to your Flora of the Shoshone poster on your wall because she's just like, hey, do you have your Flora of the Shoshone poster up? Do you know it has great information?
You like trees, don't you?
It has great information about the wildlife around you.
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, you're like, what are you talking about? And she goes, you see this tree on the top row in the second from the left? There's a place in your district called that tree place.
Oh, you mean the... And she's like, no, say it.
She's like, no, don't tell me what it is. Just look at it. It's fine. And it's called that place. You should maybe go for a hike there. And you were like, okay. And if you hadn't worked it out by now.
Yeah.
And the place is called Cottonwood Creek, which is why I have made such a good pun.
I don't know if okay, sure. Yeah.
And so you have to sort of head down there. Now, you cannot do that.
Yeah?
Because you have the axe. So you can just head off to the station. I found this because there's this is the benefit of the commentary again. There's a commentary near the radio because you head back down there and she's put a new radio in the cash box. She's creatively changed the combination to 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh wow!
And there's a new radio, obviously, so you don't get heard.
Yeah.
But because the developers aren't putting walls in this game, you can go wherever you want. And because you already have the axe, you can break into Wapiti Station now.
Okay.
And you'll rock up there and you'll be like, hey, I'm at the station. She'll be like, I think you should go to that place that I told you to go to. What are you doing over there? And then eventually, after you start telling her about stuff. Yeah. And then she's like, for God's sake, Henry, I put a radio in that box for you so we wouldn't get listened to. And you're like, sorry, do you want me to go back? And she's like, you're already there now. It's fine. And then, so it basically completely changes the dynamic in that scene.
Yeah.
Because she's basically just having a go at you every time you say something. She just has a go at you for not getting the radio and being an idiot. Because you do look like an idiot when you don't go there.
Yeah.
Or I look like even more of an idiot because I took my developer commentary all the way down there, opened the box, looked at the radio, and then walked off to find out what was going to happen.
Now this was my other potential continuity issue with this game. So Delilah Station is situated north
of you, yeah.
And this walkie-talkie is situated south of you. She could have just given it to you, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. She said she walked there herself and put it in the box.
Yeah.
I don't know why they made you go there. Now, actually, I might have one reason, which is, okay, so Cottonwood Creek's in the bottom left of the map. They started it there, and then apparently for a while they put it up in the northwest next to Wapiti Station.
Yeah. At a time it was in a different
And then
spot.
right before they shipped, they decided that they had too much dialogue for the distance between those two areas, so they put it back down the bottom. So that could be one reason.
Hmm.
The other reason is you can't see her. I mean, she could have put it there at night, but that would have been weird. I mean, I don't know
walk.
logically why she would need to do that.
Yeah.
Why she would need to go to that
Yeah.
box.
That's my only real potential continuity issue, I suppose.
I guess it really is just that dialogue. I mean, they could have put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
They could have put it right near her entrance to her like the way to her lookout.
Yeah.
And it would have been a similar distance, but yeah, look.
Yeah.
Who am I to judge? She just wanted to go for a hike.
Sure.
She just wanted to go for a hike, you know.
She could have just stopped by. She could have.
Yeah, I guess. She'd just be bored. She just wanted to go for a walk. So yeah, you rock up here, and this is now. I'm not sure what date it is in game.
Yeah.
What month it is, because this is where you start to get an idea, or at least on my second playthrough, I got an idea that. Well, I mean, I already knew the plot at this point, but I started to think, well, maybe I'm given an idea that this is not as confusing as it seems. So when you first find the axe, there's a note there that says, like, oh, Doctor whatever is set up in Wapiti Station doing doing stuff. And so, of course, you could go, well, maybe he's, like, studying us or something, or doing some weird social experiment. But here you get another one where it says, like, there's a little box that you open up, and there's another funny interaction I like where
it's a bee.
Yeah, a bee jumps out and stings you, and you can just call in and be like, I got stung by a bee, and she's like,
Is that it?
I'm sorry. And you're like,
did it hurt?
And you're like, yeah, it did. But in that box, there's a clipboard that sort of says Dr. Whatever on site from August to October. Now, is it August to October?
I think this is March-ish or May.
Oh, that's a good point. It's summer.
Yeah. Oh, but this
so
is
wouldn't
American
it be?
summer.
Yeah, American summer would be the middle of the year, right? That'd be like July.
Yeah.
Oh, because the fire was in July, right? So it'd be.
Yeah.
But then that means it would be August, right? I don't know.
I don't know.
If the fire started in July, that's only 2 weeks later, so it could still be July, right?
I think. Yeah.
So the idea is, right, that if you're paying attention to the in-game date, which you cannot know unless just by hearing her talk.
Yeah, you're not walking around with a calendar.
Yeah, you don't have a calendar on you. You might have an idea that, well, this guy isn't on site right now, so it's just abandoned.
Yeah.
Which gives you a clue as to what's happening. So like, a lot of the stuff that's here makes no sense. So there's a bunch of monitoring equipment, like towers and things, but there's also just a random soil grid
There's
that they've gridded off.
There's like a seismology thing or something.
Yeah, so you start to be thinking, well, what does this have to do with them listening to my radio, that they have a soil grid?
Yeah.
But you head down there and you find a wave receiver in a box. Wave receiver annoying on the audio commentary because they didn't think about it, and it just covers over the little legend that shows you all the ones that you've ticked off.
Yeah.
So you can't see how far you've tracked. You can still see it on the map because they cross them off on the map as well. Yeah. But it's just a bit irritating. Them because when you move, the map like flies around. You have to stand still. So I was like moving to try and get glimpses of the legend to see how many I'd done.
That is pretty annoying.
Because it's bigger than your compass, obviously, because you normally had a compass. You swap this out for your compass, and you can't pull out the map without pulling out the compass as well.
No, which is weird.
But just a weird mechanical thing, which obviously they wouldn't have thought of because they didn't have this in the game, the audio tour, when they started.
No.
But the wave receiver is like already going crazy doing something. So you turn around and there's like a big pile of dirt, papers. And this is another one where it's a bit suspicious because obviously there's left for you to find because there's a black box just randomly sitting on top of a folder that has like psychology reports on YouTube.
I don't think it's. You could argue it's left for you left for you to find, but you could also just see it as like stupidity and an oversight on.
But I mean, like the fact that there's a black box right on top of the one piece of useful evidence in this place.
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, obviously he didn't know you had a wave receiver, but there was a wave receiver there, so I don't know. It's just like, because it turns out that this is intentionally left for you to find to freak you out. So there's like, it says like, it's very official looking, like monitoring period, 10 weeks, psychological profile, blah, blah, blah. This, and like...
Here's a description of,
actually,
Henry.
In hindsight, the biggest clue is, that's weird, is that it still says that she is dating Javier.
Yeah.
Now... That makes sense because Ned was in the park 3 or 4 years ago, and so when that when he was there, she probably was still dating Javier.
Didn't she leave Javier to come to the park?
No, she was doing something with scouts or
Oh,
something. No, she didn't go
yeah,
back when
yeah.
his wife died. But the thing is, right, if she tells you about Javier, you presume he was listening, unless he just wasn't at that time. Obviously, there's a branch where she doesn't tell you.
I suppose you can't expect him to listen.
He doesn't. Yeah, you can just say he wasn't listening 24/7. But I mean, yeah, you assume that there is a branch where she doesn't tell you about him. But yeah, I guess that's sort of, and that's another clue that it's Ned, which you probably haven't put together yet, unless you're like a super detective. But
because at this stage, all that's said about Ned and Brian is
that they were there and they left. You know nothing else
they
about
left
them.
because Ned had
left
to look after
abruptly, that's all you
Brian
know.
because Ned was the next of kin because he's his father and the grandmother died.
Yeah.
And then they left for some reason.
Yeah, they just left abruptly. That's all you know.
Oh, Brian went back to school. Oh,
You
okay.
assume, yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point, Delilah just goes crazy and tells you to burn down the whole place.
The stupidest thing anyone could ever
stupidest
say.
thing she's ever said, and you just go, you can say, yeah, cool. I don't know what happens if you say, yeah, cool. I assume you eventually get talked out of it.
Yeah.
But even though she suggested it, but the logical person says that's insane. Why the hell would you burn this down? So she's like, yeah, you're right. We probably shouldn't burn it down. So you head off, and then of course it's on fire.
burns down.
It's on fire. You leave, and it's on fire,
Yeah.
and you break the bridge on the way out, just conveniently, so you can't go back.
It's because you're fat.
Yeah, and you appear literally staring at the smoke, but if you just walk off, she's like, "Hey, do you see that smoke?" Because you can't just not tell her about it. You can just walk off. Because this is the trigger for the end of the day, right? As soon as you finish talking to her about the smoke, the end of the day. So you can just be like, look at that smoke and be like, oh, I'm on my way. I'm off now. So you just walk off and head back into the map. She's like, do you see that smoke? And you're like, what? What are you talking about?
What smoke?
What smoke? Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, the game's over. The day's over. So, yeah, obviously it's still on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what? I thought you said you weren't going to do it. And yeah.
And yeah, she blames you for it, and you're like, no, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Not
And then, the tension builds because you're like, well, someone set fire to this thing.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't realise that this was day 77 part 2 because I'd lost track of it. Because that was such a long day that I'd lost track of continuity. I wasn't sure what day. I assumed it must have been day 76. But this is day 77 part 2. So you cut back to Henry. It was nighttime when it just became nighttime when you got to the station. And now it's still nighttime, so it's still the same night, and you're just sitting on your typewriter.
I guess it saves you the walk back.
Yeah, they save you the walk back, and you have a little typewriter, you're just typing, who is listening to us? Stick it up on the wall. And every note that you've picked up throughout the game is also stuck up on the wall. So if you've picked up heaps, you've got all these notes, including all this stuff between Ron and Dave, and the girls note that you're a psycho, and all this stuff just stuck up on the wall. I mean, in my audio log playthrough, I didn't pick up barely anything, so it was just basically an empty wall.
Yeah.
But again, this is another contextual thing that's changing based on your situation. And obviously, if you adopted the turtle, it lives in your house as well.
Some cardboard box. Or
yeah,
something.
and you can pick it up, and you can continually adopt it, because the whole B is to adopt. So you
pick it up, you have a moral dilemma every time.
Yeah, every day you can just put it back in your pocket and take it with you the whole day, and then it comes back. But now this one, I didn't like this part.
I forget what happens.
I get okay, so your wave receiver starts going off as you're talking to
them. Yeah.
And you head down there, and there's just a backpack hanging on a hook with the key to the cave that you conveniently need. Now, it's immediately confusing to you because once you find the final reveal, you're like, this is Ned's backpack. Why would he leave it there for you to find? He doesn't want you to go in the cave. That's literally his only purpose, is he doesn't want you to go in the cave. And he leaves you a backpack with the key right there.
Doesn't he say something later how I don't care anymore, whatever.
But that's not why. Now, the explanation the developers gave is that he has set up this bug-out bag to leg it if he needs to. And he's alarmed it so that if someone gets to it, he'll know.
Oh, okay.
But he doesn't figure that the wave receiver is going to trigger it. So he just, you know what I mean? He just has it sitting there. Because I went there earlier in the game, it's not there. Because you can go up that path and clear the brush away because it's not axe required. It's just moving around with your arms.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I went up there earlier and it's not anything, there's nothing there. So you go there and you pull it off and the alarm goes off and then you have to break it with your axe and you get the key. So the continuity here is that he obviously has, I don't know how he knows that the alarm's gone off. I don't think it's that loud that it covers the whole forest.
No.
But he knows, and that's why he goes into your tower. Because you pick up this thing, you find the key, you start heading back, and talking to Delilah, and you're like, well, I'm out here in the middle of the woods, it's a bit creepy, and she's like, well, you're back in your tower now, so it's fine. And you're like, no, I'm not in my tower. And she's like, oh, shit, run.
Yeah.
So, so, now, they make you walk from this point, you can't run. Once you pick up the backpack, you can't run. But if you walk really fast, which is what I did in the third, I pared it perfectly, you actually can see the tower while she tells you that there's someone definitely in there right now, and no one leaves, obviously, but when you get there, there's no one there. Yeah. So obviously they just messed up the time. I mean, you have to know what you're doing to get there at the quickest possible rate. Yeah. But, obviously he didn't jump off the balcony or something as I was climbing the stairs.
Look, if that typewriter can survive...
The typewriter survived, yeah. Maybe, he has a typewriter. Maybe he, surfed it down.
Henry's got some good knees. Maybe this guy is, you never know.
Yeah, so, I mean, yes, there's no one... You get back there, and there's a tape...
There's a Walkman.
A Walkman with a cassette taped to your door. And you listen to it, and it basically is just a tape of Delilah going, we should burn this place down, let's get them.
Oh, but everything would burn. And then it takes everything out of context.
Yeah, to make it sound like they set the fire.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's unexplained why this fire just happened. And then that is the end of Day 77, Part 2. Day 78... I think this is the day I think I said where you can put your wedding ring on if you want.
Yeah.
It is quite obvious on the table on the way out, but it's not super. It's not in your face that you have to choose.
It's not glowing or anything.
Yeah. So you could not choose it by accident. And basically now you've got the key. Your purpose is to get into the cave. So you head for the cave. This is where she tells you, right, that a lookout named Henry called into one of the other lookouts and said, Delilah knows why that fire got started.
Yeah.
To try and freak him out. So you go to the cave, you open it up, you walk in. This is another one where the developer snafu'd a little bit. Because knowing that the door was going to get locked behind me, I backed up watching it the whole time. And I thought there was going to be a corner that I was about to walk around. But as I just started to walk around it, the door shut. So you can see it shut on its own.
Yeah.
But obviously, normally you just walk straight through. And the door shuts behind you, and you're like, oh no, I'm locked in.
Yeah.
The radio doesn't work in the cave because it's too underground or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
So you just basically navigate through this cave.
This Ned guy is the sneakiest
he's sneaky man
in the world.
Except for that first day where he was just in you. He's just flashlighting you.
You could he's hiding in this cave. You could search the whole damn cave, and then the second you walk through the gate, he just slams it behind you. Which is it's really, really stupid. But yeah, so you're in the cave now. This is, about to hit the climax of the game, really. We're really close now.
Yeah, this is basically the big reveal this day. So they make you get to the cave once. You can, if you're really paying attention, you can look down and you can see a shoe.
Can you?
Just on one of the ledges here. And if you because there's a zoom mechanic in this game if you hold LB. Or, I don't know, L1 on PS4 or whatever. And if you zoom in on the shoe, you'll see it's a shoe, and Henry will yell out, is there anyone here? Because you're assuming, oh man, there's a shoe, there must be someone. So you work your way through the top level of the cave and come out, and then you get to call Delilah and say, I was locked in the cave. And then this is an area that you can't access otherwise, so you get now you get exposition on Brian.
Yeah. Because
you head up and there's
it's like a little
fort that he's built. Yeah, he's painted the walls like castle walls, and he's it's a nice little round. I don't know what it's actually for. It's like a man-made round area sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he's got a bunch of stuff there. He's got little banners.
He's got comics and
comics. He's
wizards and wyverns.
Yeah, he's got a legally different Dungeons and Dragons character sheet, which, interesting note, is actually the character sheet of one of the devs. Their first Dungeons and Dragons character when they're in high school is the same name as this dude. So that's cool. His name's Gladius or something. And he's got a bunch of, quite depressingly in hindsight, Brian has a bunch of climbing pittons in there. And there's a note that says, I stole these climbing pittons, so my dad won't take me climbing anymore because I don't like climbing. I'd rather, so if I steal his pittons and I think he actually wrote a note. It's actually a letter to the ranger, to a ranger that says, hey, ranger, if you find these climbing pittons, Can you please send them back to me? I will pay you money. I don't want to go climbing anymore, but my dad likes climbing all the time, so I stole these kittens, but I would like to give them back. So can you please send them to me and I will pay you? And which is quite charming at first, but in hindsight, not very charming. Apparently, he didn't get them all.
No.
He's got a few like school projects and stuff there as well that he's been doing. Yeah, and you sort of can chat to.
You talk to Delilah, and she's like, "Man, it is so strange that he would leave all this stuff and just go
leave
home.
Without it." Yeah,
it's like, that is strange. Wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah, and so you need these climbing kittens to get off this mountain to start with, so you can get down. You can put them in cracks in the wall to then rope rather than just use tree stumps, which is what you've been using the whole time. And you have to head back around to the cave again. Now, there's actually another secret area that probably no one goes to unless you're doing the developer tour, which is you come out and you loop back around south to the cave. If you head north, you have to head north a little bit to get your wave receiver to start going, and it'll start beeping.
Okay.
So once you've triggered that, obviously you know where you're going. And you head north far enough, and there's like a dead elk with a tracking collar on. That was what triggering the wave receiver, which is just a bit of fluff. But and you can talk to Lyra about it.
At some point.
There's a dead elk here, and you're like, oh man, cool. And then also, if you head through the brush in that area, there's like a little, it's not really a campsite, but like a couple of chairs and stuff sitting around, and there's a tape that you need for an achievement called Old Shoshone. Cassette tape that plays like an actual song in the game with lyrics, the only song with lyrics, I think, in the game. And the final note between Ron and Dave, where I think one of them broke up with some girl, and the other one sent him this song.
Okay.
But so but that's stuff that you won't notice because it's not going to trigger unless you go north more.
Yeah, at this point in the game, you're kind of more concerned with
if you're following the main plot, you're not going to head north and just randomly look for the stuff.
Yeah.
So you loop back around to the cave. And this time now you can get down further.
Yeah, you go back through the lock gate because you still
doesn't get locked behind you this time.
For some reason, you can't just like reach through and unlock it.
Yeah,
you have an axe. Just do something.
Yeah, I mean you could just use the axe without the key.
Yeah,
you'd think.
Yeah.
But you sort of you head back around, and this is where you find Brian Goodwin's body.
Yes.
So he was the one that lost his shoe. And he's just at the bottom of the ravine, rocks over his face so they don't have to model a face.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sprawled out there.
He slipped.
Yeah.
While
he's got climbing equipment next to him. Yeah, he's got like a pit that's come out of the rock next to him, so obviously he didn't put it in properly. Yeah. And then you get to interpret this how you want. So you can interpret this as like Ned killed him.
Yeah.
My God.
Oh, yeah. Or, Ned was PTSD.
Yeah. What I think is the more logical is that it was just an accident.
Oh, yeah.
Brian's a bad climber, which is what Ned tells you later on.
Yeah. It makes the most sense.
And so then you have to exit the cave before you can call Delilah because there's no radio. And you have to tell her that, like, dude's dead.
Yeah, she, from henceforth, she gets really, like, cold and, I guess she retracts a bit as a character, which is completely understandable.
Yeah, because really, she didn't call it in that he was there, so she blames
herself because Brian wasn't meant to be here with Ned, and
she let him stay, and he died.
Yeah, had she have said something, then this wouldn't have happened.
So that is the end of this day 78, the penultimate day, and now we got the final day, day 79. Which starts with your receiver going off again.
Yeah, everything's on fire at this stage.
Yeah, this is like, it's really smoky,
you're about to get evacuated and your receiver goes off. And
Delilah basically says, why don't you go look at that while you wait for the evacuation to start? Just because. Now, this is another bit you can sort of skip. So you have to pick up the tape, but you don't have to go up. So you work your way around and there's like a tape to the wall that says, and the wall just has Henry painted on it. And you're like, well, cool. Sounds like that's right. So you pick up the tape and it's Ned talking about what happens. He actually gets a fair bit of dialogue, not the most of anyone else in the game apart from the main two.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he talks a lot about, why he had Brian out here and all this stuff and what happened to him and why he decided
it's exposition dump of, I was,
He's decided to live out in the forest rather than take Brian's body back and,
Brian
go through
slipped.
all that.
It's too much hassle for me to go back.
So he's been living in the forest for 4 years, basically.
Yeah.
You right next to that sign, the tape, there's a rope to climb up. So you can climb up and you find his bunker. You don't have to do that. I mean, it's it's really wants you to do that, but you don't have to.
No.
So you climb up there, and you basically just explains everything that you've missed. So, or that that's all this whole conspiracy. Really, almost every plot point is explained to you. So
well,
you go in. He's got your stolen sheets.
He's got stuff from the
He's
girls.
got the stuff from the girls' camp. He's got like 50 drafts of those psychological reports where he's like messed up one letter that he types, oh damn, and then has to then just finishes it off. I don't know why, like if you mess it up you would go to the effort of typing damn dot.
Well, yeah.
but you know.
Yeah, I mean what it comes down to is there is no conspiracy.
No, there's no conspiracy or anything. So basically what happened is
like scientific testing. There's nothing, you know.
Well, I mean, there is scientific testing.
The girls end up being found.
Yeah, they tell you, I think, during the previous day that the girls were found.
Yeah.
They're fine.
They just stole a truck or something.
Yeah, they stole a truck and went up somewhere and got arrested, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what happened is he saw you on that first day coming out of the cave and he went, oh no, this dude's going to find what's in the cave. So he then was tapping your radio. He was setting up what did he do? He set up the clipboard for you to find to try and freak you out and make you leave. He punched you out, obviously. He was lurking in the bushes, recording as you talked about burning down the place and then set the tape for you.
A lot of this is like, you know, would have been a lot different if Henry was more observant.
Yeah, I mean, if he spotted this dude in the bushes, like, I looked pretty hard the second time. Yeah, so he's basically responsible for everything that's happened. Which I think he also has like a series of notes that you can read about, like all this, like his sort of process. It's like a diary of his processes throughout the days, as like, well, I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to do this now to try and freak them out more. Yeah, so I mean, look, it's an anticlimactic reveal, but it's one that does wrap up most of the story points, as I said.
I don't think there's any like loose threads.
No,
really.
I mean, we sort of talked about them before, like Delilah's secret conversation, and the backpack sort of hangs a little bit, and well, the one about you said about the radio doesn't really affect this part of the mystery. But yeah, it's an anticlimax, really, is the idea. Like, I don't think there's anything that they could have done that would have been plausible and also satisfying. Like, it had to be an anticlimax in the end. And it's as good an explanation as any, really.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah. The idea is about, like, how isolation can affect you and make you feel paranoid about all these things, because it really feels, especially on my first playthrough, it really feels to you like something's going on and you're so close to working it out.
The whole point of this game is after the first sort of, you know, encounter with the clipboard and getting punched in the head, you're on edge the whole game. You're like, Jesus.
You're like, man, what if I get punched in the head again?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm just doing something.
You're constantly like, okay, what's going on here? I need to figure this out. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just, oh no, it's this guy who lost his kid. He's gone a bit crazy.
Yeah,
he's
like that hour of tension or whatever it is the crux of the game. Like, you know, you're thinking about what's it going to be, what's going to happen. And it's going to come up to what you like, the level you'd expect it, but
it's the issue with a lot of things where, like, what could you have done to please everyone? You can never please everyone.
Yeah, like if it was like, you know, if it was aliens or something, some people would be like, cool, but some people would be like,
stupid.
That's so dumb.
So
like,
unrealistic. That was like, it's like,
this is a realistic thing that could happen to someone.
Oh,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, this dude's just chosen to live in the forest and he doesn't want you to find the body, so he does a bunch of stuff. Like, you know, it's something that could happen, and it's like, it's more about, as I said, the paranoia of, oh my god, what is this? What's happening?
You can view it as like, you know, Henry came out here for an escape from his, like, personal life, but had he continued, or, you could view Ned as kind of like a parallel in some sort of sense.
Yeah. Like, this could have been what Henry could have been. Yeah. Like, Henry could have been this dude, and like the same things could have happened. And he could have been just living out in the woods. Yeah. So then there's only thing left is to escape now. You go north. So you got to head up to Delilah's tower. I'm going to go way back here. But there's a hilarious conversation.
Hey, I'm out at a ravine. What's this thing that spans across it?
That is how you get to my sector.
No kidding. Well, let me hike over.
Well, it's locked up and mainly for emergencies. I've never actually used it. Rangers use it from time to time, but that's it.
Help! Oh, God, it's an emergency!
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got eyes on a tornado. I gotta get out of here.
A tornado in the heart of the Rockies?
Yes!
Holy moly, I need to call this in. Tom, Two Forks sees a tornado. He says he needs an evac into my sector. It's a meteorological impossibility. There haven't been tornadoes in the greater Yellowstone region in 100 million years. You're gonna need him to stay and take a detailed personal account, even if it means giving his life. Okay, I'll tell him. Sorry, Hank. No dice.
Man.
It's fantastic.
It's good. But yeah, so you head back up there, and this time, and on the way, Delilah's like, yeah, the helicopter's here.
Yeah.
And I think I want to go. And you can say, okay. You can say, do you have to? You can say, wait.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say, do you have to, she'll eventually say, yeah, I'm going. And obviously if you say, okay, go, she'll go. If you say, wait, she will say, okay, I'll wait for you. But she'll go anyway. So that was what I chose in my original playthrough.
My first playthrough, I said, yeah, wait for me.
And she said, okay, I'll wait for you.
Yeah.
And you're sort of... This is probably another reason why the game's received a lot of negativity, is that, you know, you've got that... You've been interacting with this person for the whole game, and then you get her to
you feel
agree
like you're building up
to see you. You're like, you know, you feel like, okay, I'm finally going to see her. And you get there, and she's already gone.
There's no...
And it's a bit deflating.
There's no catharsis, I suppose.
And like,
right?
but the thing is, that's how you would feel. Like, that's...
I know.
You're feeling as the protagonist would feel.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I can't
feel
believe
absolutely
that she's not
gutted.
here.
Yeah, and you get on the mic and you're like, oh, you left. She's like, yeah, I can't do this or whatever. You're like, yeah, okay, I completely, you know, it's super, super disappointing, but you get it.
But that's what they're going for.
Yeah. And I think the trouble is, conversely, if you were to meet her or something, then it's like, I mean, first of all, you got to make a character model.
You got to make a character model. There's no in-person conversation in this game.
Second of all, it's like, you know, what do? There's no character interaction in this game, like personal character interaction, and you're throwing that in. They don't even give it to you for your, like, prequel bit at the start.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a good payoff to say, all right, we'll give you one conversation at the end of the game with an actual person. But
yeah. The whole point of this thing is you come here to get away from, like, the trouble with your wife, and then at the end she, regardless, convinces you that you should see her?
She doesn't convince you, but she tells you.
She tells you.
So you get to decide what you want her to do, and they're really weird options.
She says, like, okay, or you say...
You tell me.
Yeah,
well,
one of you says, I'll choose what you do, and you choose what I do. And then you say, like, oh, I think you should come to Boulder.
Yeah, you can say to come live with me.
Yeah.
And she sort of, she says no.
Yeah,
you can tell her to go live with her sister,
like,
I think.
I don't know.
And I think you can tell her to be a psychiatrist or something. Like, I don't know. It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like,
and regardless,
she
says...
She says you can see her.
Wife.
Yeah, and you could... I mean, I reluctantly agree.
I think, yeah.
But you could say, no, I don't think so.
And I think on my second playthrough, knowing that, like, this is how it ends, that you're more inclined to not get attached.
Yeah, like I said, I was a bit disappointed by the ending, although I still enjoyed the game the first time, but playing it the second time, knowing what was coming, like, I could appreciate more the game, like, itself, and, like, I wasn't, annoyed by the ending. I thought, yeah, this is it's a decent ending. It's not a great ending.
Yeah.
But it's a decent ending to a good experience.
It's an ending that would realistically happen. And that's the whole point of it. Like, there's no grand... Like we said, there's nothing. There's no big spectacle. It's just, okay, this is life. The end. Yeah.
So she hangs up and the helicopter arrives and you jump on it unless you want the secret ending. Which is if you mess around for too long, the helicopter will just leave you there.
Oh, actually?
Yeah, and the credits will roll and you'll be stuck there in the fire zone.
That's pretty cool.
Because, I mean, think about it. If you're a rescue chopper and you've been sitting there for 10 minutes and this guy's just wandering around, like, wandering around the steps nearby, he's just be like, okay, I'm out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, because you automatically get that in the audio version because he holds out his hand to pick you up, but in the audio version, he's just holding a cassette tape.
Yeah.
So you pick that up and he just leaves. And that's when they also explain to you at the end and during the credits about the secret ending where they'll just leave. So the credits are notable only for the photos.
Do they show you the photos you took?
They will play all the photos you took in reverse order.
Okay.
So the most recent photos will play first. And then, so you can sort of, if you took photos of all nice natural landmarks, that'll be the last thing that you sort of see is like, all these nice photos. Or if you took photos of Brian's dead body, the tent that's been destroyed, like, all this stuff. The equipment that was monitoring you, all this, then it's like, a bit of a like conspiracy theorist ending sort of thing, like the way it ends. And then probably the best part of this is you get, number one, you get the one where you shot yourself in the face with the camera.
Oh, really?
As you first pick up the camera, there's one of just your face filling the thing, because as you pick up the camera, you accidentally take a photo of yourself in the face.
You're the clumsiest man.
Yeah, you're so bad. But just like you flashlighted yourself in the face, you took a photo of yourself in the face. So that one's there. And then it plays like 3 or 4 of Brian's ones that he took. So you get one of him like playing with a dinosaur where he's like made it look like the dinosaur is going to eat the tower.
That's pretty cool.
You've got one of Ned, so you get to see what Ned looks like. I think you've got one of actually him that he's taken of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think that's mostly it. And then it's sort of, then you get some dev photos of like the actual devs.
Yeah.
But, so it's sort of a nice finale and a reason to get you to watch the credits, to like show you Brian's stuff. And that's probably the only big genius moment of that camera. The camera's almost pointless throughout the game. You don't have to use it. But it's just more rewarding seeing all these extra photos and then seeing his photos rather than just seeing, oh, look, these ones from Brian took.
They could integrate the camera to be like, if you do, like when you get to the research facility, if Delilah's like, oh, you should take some photos of this. You cannot progress until you take photos of this. But then it's like they're kind of taking away your autonomy.
Yeah, because especially the thing is that it's a disposable camera and they enforce the limit of photos that you have. I think he's taken like 5 or something.
You could burn through 15 or whatever.
You have 18 photos, I think, or something, so you can just take them all if you want. So I was like desperately saving mine in my first playthrough and I still had heaps left.
Yeah, well, it's the RPG equivalent of potions.
Yeah.
I might need this later.
Yeah, I think it's a nice ending and the music at the end's quite good. The final, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's decent. And then you're back to the type screen. You're done. Yeah. Finish the game. We have run very, very long.
I really didn't think this one would. I didn't think this one would take as long.
We went in depth on this story.
Yeah.
So, you got any final thoughts on the game? I've got some. I
don't know. I was going to touch on the point that, like, it could be argued that Delilah was lying to you with the whole weird conversation. And, the fact that, the whole thing burns down, like, the facility. I watched a YouTube video on it or something.
Yeah, I saw something about Delilah conspiracies and stuff when I first finished it.
But I don't want to believe it, and I don't think I do.
I don't think that's what the devs intended. I think that's people just trying to find a conspiracy where there turned out to not really be one.
Yeah.
But, you can, like, because of the way the game's built, you don't know everything. You could say, well, who's to say she was in her tower the whole time? Maybe she's just been, like, maybe she was just stalking you, doing stuff the whole time you were around. Maybe instead of when she put that radio in there, maybe she also set up all of Ned's stuff or whatever.
Was a point where, like, she says at one point in the game, oh, I can see you're wearing shorts and, you're white or something, but then later she can't recognize that you're not the bloke.
Yeah, he's also white and wearing shorts, but on the drawing of you at the end in the tower, it's like known facts: white, shorts. Those are like her 2 things, her dot points of things that you know. So it's funny when you're in a tuxedo with shorts on.
It's my final thoughts are: I love this game.
It's a great story. Yeah. It's not
like
perfect,
I said,
but it's a great story.
3-4 hours, give it a shot. I mean, well, here's the thing. If you're still at this point, you've already played the game.
Yeah, probably. Unless you probably know everything now, really.
Yeah.
But there's experience there.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. And I think anyone should really give it a shot because why not? $20. So.
Okay, so have you got a review for this? A review score?
How many days?
79 days. Okay. Well, how many do you want playable days or the 79 canon days?
Yeah, sure. So I give it a 73 out of 79 Firewatching days or 0 because PewDiePie got DMCA'd.
Yeah.
I give this game a 0.
I feel like my Drew scale's a bit off. Like, I think I should have given
Yours
Outer
is.
Wilds a 9. I mean, yours is just random. I think I should have given Outer Wilds a 9, and I'm going to give this a 9.
Yeah.
But so I gave Outer Wilds an 8 when we first played it. But I think both are worth a 9. And yeah, great game.
Fantastic.
So that's going to about do it for us. This is a nice long episode again to follow up from our last long episode.
Getting good at the long episodes.
Yeah, we're getting good. And we will talk to you in 2 weeks. Until then, I've been Matthew.
I've been Ben.
This has been the Fast Play Podcast, and we'll talk to you then.
Bye.